Welcome along, everybody. We are ready for some action here. We're going to be in China then for the 100% League, and we are ready to take on the famous Shanghai International Circuit here tonight. So good luck indeed to the drivers then who have got themselves ready to race. And there we go. We are ready to crack on then. Good stuff indeed. And just checking that everything is all set and ready to go, and we are ready to go as well then. Here we are. I'll get the stream up as well. And hopefully we can crack on then with an exciting 100% race around the Chinese Grand Prix. And this is going to be a pretty epic race indeed, I think. So good stuff indeed. Just getting me stream sorted. There we go. Good stuff. We are loaded in. We are ready to race, or ready to qualify first. But we are ready to get going here in China then. Round 4 of the 100% League Season 3. The 4th season, of course, of the Event League, if you didn't know. We did have an F2 season in there somewhere as well, but we have got, of course, a very fantastic grid indeed lined up, ready to race here for the 100% race around China. We're hoping that Don the Dons will join in the Ferrari then in just a jiffy. But there we go then. It's rain, says Ginger Age. Oh my goodness me. There is rain on the horizon. Not too sure if that's going to be in qualifying. Doesn't look like it's going to be in qualifying here. But we have got rain forecast then. When is the rain forecast? We will have to find out then. Hopefully some of the lovely intel from the comment section can tell us. And Equaz has put some rain clouds in the comment section as well then. So that is dangerous stuff indeed then. Rain afoot then here in Shanghai then, but of course not so much then in qualifying. 17 minutes left of the session for the drivers to set their times and to sort out the grid then for this race. And then we'll be into the 56 laps, I believe, of the Chinese Grand Prix then. So it's going to be a long old slog then, especially if it's going to be raining here tonight as well then. So, well, there we go then. Farf hasn't set the lobby up tonight because Farf is not racing here tonight. He's busy doing something else. I don't know what he's doing. But he's probably been very naughty indeed. But Jinner then is the host for tonight, and Jinner is the curse then for the rain. So he has brought the rain clouds to Shanghai, which we will see at some point in the race then. We'll have to find out. But so far, nice and sunny then for qualifying then, as we get our first outlaps of the session underway then, and cruising around the first and second sectors then is Sick as Muck then, just getting those soft compound tires warmed up then, ready for his first flying lap, the first flying lap then of the session tonight then. 16 minutes to go here in qualifying then. No times on the board just yet then, but all the drivers then coming out of the pit lane slowly but surely to firstly get their lap times on the board, then the first banker lap on the board, I think, here before they get their second run, get their eye in properly then for the fastest they're going to be around this circuit here tonight then. So looking forward to seeing how the qualifying is going to unfold, looking forward to seeing how the race is going to unfold as well. So good stuff so far then. Sick as Muck then is going to take us around the Shanghai International Circuit then for a lap of qualifying here in the Ferrari as we go on to the start-finish straight then. DRS, of course, available down the start-finish straight and down the back straight as well, then the longer back straight, of course. So that's where we're going to see a lot of overtaking, I think, I would imagine. but we will have to find out then through turns 1, 2 and 3, which are all pretty much just spoons, because I think, as I keep on saying every time I commentate around China, then it seems to be that they just got all the corners that nobody else wanted on their tracks, and they put it all together then, and that is what they got. But Sick as Muck then into the second sector now. Of course, Purple in sector 1. Here's the first driver to fly through sector 1 on a flying lap, that is, and here comes the Ferrari now negotiating through the next few spoons of sector 2 then into a tight left-hander, and then it's another tight left-hander then to finish off sector 2, then coming towards the largest of the spoons, then the penultimate not penultimate corner, the almost penultimate corner, then the second to last corner, coming around this very long right-hander, then making sure you don't lose the back end, then is paramount, of course, trying to get the power down as early as you can, but not losing the back end of the car, then to keep yourself in contention then for a fantastic lap time. Then DRS, of course, available down the back straight here as well, then the rear wing flying open then on that Ferrari, then heading down towards the hairpin, then heaviest braking zone of the circuit then, and making sure he gets that pointed in right and tidy then. He has done so far then into the final quarter. Then let's see what Sick as Muck is going to do to open up the qualifying here with 14 minutes left of the session. It's a 31.7 then for the Ferrari. Good stuff indeed. Then here comes Ginner in the Mercedes, and of course our lobby host for tonight then, so looking forward to seeing how the lobby's going to fare. But Ginner then does a 32.5 then on the medium compound tyres, so interesting stuff indeed then from him. Kiki is not on a lap then. It is his teammate of Mumford who just started off a flying lap here, but I think we've got an Alpine of Young Lights who's done a 31.9, then puts himself into P2 for the time being on the soft compound tyres. Good stuff indeed. That is Farf's car, so he's hopefully Farf is going to be looking forward to getting a good result then for the Alpine outfit then in his absence, that is. Ginger Rage has done a 35.7 then in the McLaren. Good stuff indeed in the lovely pink helmet as well then. Brilliant stuff from the McLaren driver then. Of course, has been very unlucky with a few drive-through penalties for speeding under the VSCs and safety cars. Fingers crossed there's no VSCs and safety cars to try and lament the poor Ginger Rage, and who's done very well in the first couple of races that he's raced in. Unfortunately, has been very unlucky then to get 2 drive-through penalties in for his troubles. That is. Vintage then up into P5, then a 33.4 for the Red Bull driver. Then R2 beat up into P4 as well. Then the R2 beat, the Aston Martin and the R2 beat as well have been pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff indeed. Then in the first few races, and of course only 3 races have been unfolding in this event, in this league so far, in this season so far, I should say. So we're still in the very early stages of the division so far. Vessia has done a 36.8. Then I'm not sure that's Vessia's best time. He's on intermediate compound tyres. That's probably why. There we go then. Here comes Equaz then into sector 3. Then there's an Aston Martin, I think, of R2 beat potentially getting out of the way then. Not quite sure if that might have unsettled Equaz then, flying around the spoon curve as Mumford goes fastest with a 31.5. Then that is just over 10th of a second, I should say, ahead of Sick as Muck then in the Ferrari. Then so far so good for the Racing Bull, back on top then. And Mumford has done a very good job in silver then on Monday nights, and he has been competing then for the podiums, for the race wins as well then in the first few races of that season as well then. So let's see what Mumford can do here tonight then in the Racing Bull. Here comes a Racing Bull, not literally, he's in the Williams, but it's Equaz then who's done a 32.0 into P4 onto the second row of the grid then for the Williams team then. Good stuff indeed. So far so good then out there as well then for the Williams team then. Well, for one of them, Coop is on an outlap at the moment, so he is not going to be able to set a time just yet. Then he's going to have to go round and cruise around. Then here comes the current contender then for the championship. Then it's Gordo, who has had some fantastic races. Of course, the champion elect then from last season as well in the 100% league, then in the McLaren that time. This time he is in the Aston Martin, which is technically I think the 5th slowest car, or 5th fastest car, whichever way you want to look at it. Pretty much slap bang in the middle of the field then, but he's done a good job then so far in this opening stages. And Game is on a 32.2 to put himself P6 in the Haas. Of course, Haas won the opening Grand Prix of this season with a fantastic race win then for Speed Kai, who is currently in the pit lane and still, so he needs to get himself back out and back underway then. So here we come then with Gordo then, of course, purple in sector 2 as well. Then that's looking promising stuff indeed then for the Aston Martin, and now negotiating the final spoon curve then of the lap, then going very wide then on the entry to the spoon, but that'll of course mean that he's got more pace then on the exit, then going to try and get get a nice slipstream then from a McLaren. I'm not quite sure that McLaren, I think it's Ginger Rage then, is going to be much use then, because he is cruising back to the pit lane then, is the McLaren Ginger Rage then, so he's not going to be going too fast down the back straight into the hairpin. We go then for Gordon, then he's only got a bit of ERS left to play with him, but can he get himself across the line? Can he get himself on pole position then? Let's find out then as we go around the final corner then in the Aston Martin. It's going to be close indeed then up to the line, and it's a 33.8, a 31.8, sorry, I should say. It puts himself P3 for the time being. That is only about, what is that, 2.5 tenths or so away from pole position, not too far away at all. Gamer then coming back to the pit lane, he's down to P7 at the moment, but a good time to set himself a light then in qualifying. Then Vintage back into the box as well. Then Coop is on a lap, I think. Yes, he is. And he's coming down the back straight now. Then DRS available then for the other Williams car. Then can he beat his teammate in P5? Currently, he is holding on to that top 5 position then for Equaz. And can Coop get himself into the range there as well? Then we'll have to wait and see. Then into the hairpin, very deep on the brakes then. Missing the apex slightly there, but could get himself maximised on the exit then. Let's see what the Coop can do. As Coop is in soup, then crosses the line then very shortly indeed. Then to finish off the lap, then it's a 33.0, puts himself P10, slap bang in the middle of the grid then. Good stuff indeed. Brilliant. So far so good out there. We've got a couple more. I think everyone else is coming back to the pit lane, then everybody else is coming out of the pit lane. Then Young Lights is back out, then Kiki is back out as well. Then so is Jinner and R2 Beat then, and a few others as well. Then we'll have to find out who's actually furthest along the circuit, so we can have a look and see what they're going to be doing then on their next flying laps. Then we've got just under 9 minutes left of the session now as well. Then here is Young Lights then on the soft compound tyres. There is an Aston Martin, I think, of R2 Beat. No, it's Gordo right behind. Potentially Gordo's got enough ERS saved up, then he could go for another lap here. We'll have to wait and see if he's going to go and try and do that. But Young Lights then will be taking us away then on the next flying lap around the Shanghai International Circuit. Then evening from Vintage. Good evening to yourself, sir. Vintage is currently P11 as it stands, that is, because he has done a time on the board, which is good stuff indeed. Then welcome to Vintage. Then of course an ALR stream. Okay. Right, what time do I need to turn my notifications off as well? I thought there we go then. Young Lights then is on circuit then. I'm going to just sort that out because I don't want to deal with that. So how do I turn my notifications off? Settings somewhere. I'll figure that out. Bear with me 1 second. Notifications. Where are the notifications? I thought they were... Oh, there they are. No, we don't want that. We don't want sound either. There we go. Perfect. Right, that's that done. So sorry about that. But Young Lights then is going to be Young Lights then all getting out of shape then into sector 3. That might have cost him a bit of time there in the in the Young Lights, in the Alpine. Goodness me, I'm flustered like something or other. Evening lads from J Marks then, long time no speak as well. Welcome back to the stream then, J Marks. Of course, unfortunately for J Marks, he's on PC, so if he was on PlayStation he could jump in and join us. But there we go. Then Jinner is up into P3 then with the 31.8 then for Jinner. Then he's up into the onto the second row of the grid as it stands. Then here comes Young Lights in the Alpine. Then can he improve on a 31.933? Let's find out then as he crosses the line. And it is an improvement then up into P2 then for Young Lights then, a 31.7 on the dot then for the Alpine. Good stuff indeed. Gets himself onto the front row, but I think sick as muck, Jinner and Gordon might have something to say about that, and so could the other drivers as well. Then here comes Kiki round the final corner. Let's see what Kiki can do. And Kiki is up into P4 then onto the second row of the grid, a 31.7 for him as well then. Puts himself joint then with sick as muck then on the 31.7s for the time being. Then into the second row of the grid then. Good stuff indeed. Then I think we've got who we've got next then. We've got Vessier then, who is on a lap then. Vessier then coming up to the line. Let's see what the Vessier can do. And it is P10 then, puts himself right in the middle of the grid then as well then for the Alpine machine. Then good stuff indeed then from Vessier, of course, improving on his first run as well. Then Speed Kai is out on circuit. Then Speed Kai coming around the final corner then, and there's what's going on there? He's on wet compound tyres then, and Ginger Rage has just started a lap and trying to get himself past that Haas then, and he has done, thankfully, but not quite sure what the point of that is, but there we go. Troy, I think, has just finished a lap, then he's gone P7 in the Kick Sauber, I should say. I did call it the Kick Alpine in silver, so that is a new team that's coming to the grid very shortly, but there we go then, first lap on the board then for the Kick Sauber then in the form of Troy. Ginger Rage then let's have a look and see what the McLaren driver is doing then, coming through into Sector 2 now as well, flying along then in the Papaya McLaren, and now into Sector 2 then trying to negotiate these very long left-handers and right-handers before you're getting very snappy left and then left again then for the McLaren. Then let's see if we can negotiate it nicely. Yes, he can. Very well done indeed then to Ginger Age. Mushroom is fast in China, says Goku, which of course is Styles. Then neither of them have qualified so far, which is not a surprise because typically, oh my goodness me, Ginger Age is off on the curbs then. I think that's not the place he wanted to be, not the place that he's going to improve his lap time either as well. I don't think so. He's decided, I think he decided to abandon his time then as well, coming back to the pit lane and getting out of the way of drivers coming through then. So far so good then, good stuff indeed then. Unfortunately for Ginger Age, not so good stuff on his second attempt then, but let's see, he's still got time on the board then to get himself back in the pits and go again in this qualifying session. Yellow flags on the back straight for a slow car. I think just getting out of the way then of the other cars coming through. Then here comes Equaz then into the hairpin. Now let's see what the Williams driver can do. Can he improve on P8 then? 32.0 for the time being. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on ahead of him. Goodness me. The tyre smoke then was incredible there, as well as into the pits comes Equaz. Then he's abandoned his time, maybe a bit unsighted by the cars. Just trying to get out of the way then, further ahead of him then as well, as we go through into the pits then for everybody apart from Vintage. Now Vintage and Sick as Muck then hold the track to themselves for the time being. I think Vintage is on a lap though, so we'll stay with the Red Bull driver. So far so good then in qualifying then, 15 times on the board then, unfortunately for Ginger Age and for Speed Kai then, not their best lap times I don't think so far, but they have got 3.5 minutes or so then to get themselves back out on track then and try again then for their final attempts here. Here comes Vintage and trying to keep that car under control as well then into Sector 2 then, keeping that Red Bull pointed in the right direction and on the grey stuff and not the green stuff, and just about keeping it within track limits there as well then, heading into the final part of Sector 2 then, now into the tight left-hander then, going on to the final spoon corner and spooning it nicely indeed then is Vintage then around that last spoon corner as well then. Now back straight then, this is where you need the straight line speed of course then, but of course the rest of the track doesn't negotiate that level, so sometimes you might want to bump the wings up then for Sector 1 and Sector 2 then, but now on the back straight is where you're going to need that less downforce and of course to fly down that straight as quickly as possible then. DRS of course is now closed as he comes around the hairpin. Then here comes the Red Bull into the final corner. I think this is last run in qualifying here, and Vintage has improved by 0.4 of a second then to put himself, he stays P13 somehow, but he's only, what's that, 6 downs away from Coop in the Williams then, not too far away then from P12, but good stuff indeed then from Vintage then, P13 for the time being. I think that might be his qualifying done and dusted here, as I don't believe he's got enough time to come back round and go again then, so we will have to wait and see then, but unfortunately I think that might be the Vintage's qualifying done and dusted here in this race, or in this session I should say then, because of course it's not a race just yet. Then we're going to get into the race after qualifying is finished in 2 minutes time, so there we are. Ginger Age is back out on a track. Fingers crossed he's on the right track, but he is just warming up his tyres now as well then, as oh goodness me, I thought he was almost into the grass at that point as well then. This is going to be entertaining, this qualifying lap, but yeah, there we go then. We've got a Racing Bull, I think, of Mumford then just ahead of us, who is going to be starting off the final attempts here in qualifying, as into the final turn we go then to set the times once again alight then. 1.5 minutes left of the session now as well then. I think everybody who is out on circuit is going to be able to get themselves a lap on the board then. We'll stay on board with Mumford then, who is going to be first to cross the line, followed by Ginger Age. We will wait and see then. Yellow flags fluttering then for a Red Bull then, just getting himself around the hairpin then, but we'll stay on board then with Mumford then, who has negotiated turns 1, 2 and 3 very nicely indeed. And now this is technically a turn, I think, turn 4, heading into turn 5, which is the heavy braking zone then for the hairpin as well here. Purple, of course, in Sector 1. He's currently on pole position now, very nicely, comfortably indeed, I should say, by almost a tenth and a half or so, or tenth and a bit, I should say, 104 thousandths of a second, I should say, if I can get my maths right. But there we go then. Bonjour from Gordo then. Good luck to everyone as well. And then, of course, Gordo is currently in P6 Oh, and Mumford, they're almost losing the back end of the Racing Bull. And there is Ginger Age racing into Sector 2. Then he is flying. Then he's a tenth and a half up or so on his time. Then is Mumford as we go into the final sector now. ERS light flashing away then on that Racing Bull as we go onto the back straight here. Let's see. Can he improve on his time then? Can he claim pole position then in his first 100% race then? For his first 100% race then, of course, he has to then do the race itself then. Vintage has retired in the pit lane. Unfortunately, didn't have enough time to come back out of the box. Come back out the box then, come back out the pits then to go again then for his third attempt in qualifying then, but he stays P13 for the time being. Then can Ginger Age, can Speed Kai, can Cam beat that time? Then we'll have to wait and see. But here comes Mumford onto the attack then, onto the main straight then, and he's done a 31.520, which puts himself P1 then, currently on pole position. Then Ginger Age has improved by almost 0.4 of a second then to stay P14 unfortunately, but has improved massively then on that lap time. Good stuff indeed. Then Cooper's crossed the line then in P10 then for the time being. Then so far so good. Then we've got a Haas flying down the back straight. That is Gamer then coming into the hairpin corner, then locking up the wheels then as well. That tyre smoke flying off the car as he tries to get the car slowed down, then into the hairpin corner, now into the final corner. Then 4X Gamer then, let's see what he can do up to the line then. And he stays P9 then, but he improves by 70 thousandths of a second, I should say. Into the pits comes, no, it's not, it's Gordo's teammate of R2P, but Gordo has gone fastest with a 31.4 in the Aston Martin. What a lap indeed then from Gordo then. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Young Lights might have something to say about that. And then I think we've got R2P up into P10 then. They're all tumbling in now the times, as here comes Kiki then up to the line. Then Kiki goes up to P4. That's an improvement of only 20 thousandths of a second. My goodness me, here comes Young Lights. Then he stays P3. There's a kick Sauber in the back line. It's Troy, and then Troy up into P3 onto the second row of the grid. There's an Alpine coming through, but Sick as Smuck might be having to say something about that as well. Then Vessia stays P12. What's going on then? I thought they were battling side by side as Jenna then and somebody else then, so they have finished their laps then, thankfully, but they weren't battling in qualifying, that is. Up to the line then for Sick as Muck. Then let's see what he can do then. It's pole position then for the Ferrari. It's a 31.288 for the Ferrari driver of Sick as Muck then, who takes pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix. And what a lap indeed then for the Ferrari then. What a lap then from Gordo as well then in P2 then. Brilliant stuff indeed then from the Ferrari driver then. Sick as Muck claims pole position then after a fantastic final run then. A 31.288 then to cap off this qualifying session then. Pole position then for Ferrari in China. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Gordo P2 in the Aston Martin. Brilliant stuff indeed from him as well. Mumford in P3, Troyer in P4, and Young Lights in P5. All the reserves in P3 down to P5 then, all bunched up together. Then Kiki P6, Jinner P7, Equaz P9, then Gamer P10. R2B rounds off the top 10. Speed Kai P11, then Coop, Vessia, Vintage, Ginger Rage got themselves a time on the board there. They are 11th down to P15, and unfortunately for Cam, for Styles, for Cam, and for Mushroom and Reflection, they didn't get a time on the board in qualifying, which is what a surprise indeed. Goodness me. After that qualifying, I'm going to have a lie down, but I've got 56 laps of commentating to try and get through next. But so far, I am already sweaty. So there's my update so far. That's brilliant stuff indeed, isn't it? And rain is afoot then straight away then for the start of this race then. Is it wet enough for, well, what is it wet enough for is the question. Is it going to be intermediate compound tyres to start the race then? Is it going to be dry tyres to start the race then? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's wet enough or raining enough then for the wet compound, the full wet compound. Well, we'll have to wait and see. There's Young Lights has left the session. Brilliant stuff. If he is listening, he should not join back during the formation lap. It will not go well for you, as we found out, I think, for Irvine in silver then. So he needs to just wait until the race has started before getting himself back in the lobby. But we are still waiting then for the drivers to pick their tyres and strategies and whatnot as well. Then, of course, I would imagine it's going to be intermediate compound tyres to start this race, but I can't tell just yet until we've got the tyres on the cars on the starting grid. But there we go then. So far, so good then. We will have a quick break, a quick interlude then to introduce our lovely sponsors once again. Right then, we are back. We are ready to get racing here in Shanghai. Rain is afoot then. Intermediate compound tyres for all 19 drivers on the grid then to start off this race. Unfortunately, we didn't get Moomin Ninja to join the race in the end, so never mind. Right then, unfortunately, we've got 19 then to start off. Here we go then. We are ready to get ourselves underway then. A wet start to the Grand Prix then. The first wet race, I think, of the ALR season on F1 24. If I'm wrong, sorry about that, but it's definitely the first wet race in the 100% league, that is. So there we go then, as we're just getting ourselves round the formation lap then to get ourselves lined up on the grid then to start off the Grand Prix. 56 laps then to unfold here in Shanghai. Rain to start with as well then. If it's going to be raining for the whole race then, that could be very difficult stuff indeed then for quite a few drivers then trying to get themselves through this race. We will have to wait and see, especially Ginger Rage down in P15 then. He's, oh dear, Sick as Muck is going to have troubles as well then if he's going to drive like that. Yes, but of course if it's going to be raining for the whole, we don't know what the duration of the rain is or how long it's going to be then. If it's going to be raining for the whole race, we will find out at the end of lap 56, I think. So far we have got a wet start then as Sick as Muck then finishes off the formation lap then to get ourselves back underway, or ready to get underway I should say, here in China then for the Chinese Grand Prix. The Shanghai International Circuit then hosts round 4 then of season 3 of the 100% League, and or 100% realistic league I should say, as we get ourselves lined up on the grid then ready to start off this race then, coming through onto the start finish grid I should say, as we just get all the drivers then round the final corner then into their grid slots then. Good stuff indeed then. I hope the camera angle changes because I'm a bit far away from the red lights to find out what's going on here. I'll have to do this for the time being then. So there we are. Right then, hopefully we're all parked and ready to go. And oh, yes, we are ready to go then. 5 red lights are coming on here in China then. The 5 red lights are out then, and away we go for the Chinese Grand Prix. It's a great start. Oh, goodness me, this camera angle. The great start then from Gordo, then a brilliant start indeed then from the Aston Martin. And Ginner then's got himself up into P2, and there's contact between Ferrari, King Sauber, and Alpine then as we go into, oh my goodness me then, oh my, there's a racing bull that's gone round as well there. And there's contact with a Red Bull in the background. Then Kiki's gone round then into turn 1 and 2 then, goodness me. And I think the Red Bull's got I thought I saw Red Bull wing damage there, but it seems to be okay then. Cam has got himself through then. Sick as Muck has dropped down from P1 then down to P11 unfortunately for the Ferrari driver. Then he's had a difficult start. Then Young Lights has lost out as he's trying to get himself back past R2 Beat here as well into the hairpin. Treacherous conditions indeed, and treacherous indeed if you're going to be racing too hard around this circuit in these conditions as well then. Out in front then Gordo takes the lead, then Ginner is up 5 places, then Equaz is up 5 places as well, then he's flying in the Williams then on those intermediate compound tyres. A great start indeed for the Williams driver then, up into the podium places now. Mumford has lost out a place then, Cooper's up 5 places, both the Williams then storming off on this start as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed for Williams, and they have been flying so far then in this opening lap. Then Troy has lost out 2 places unfortunately. I think he got tangled up then with the Ferrari of Sick as Muck there as well into turn 1 and 2. Then Young Lights down 3 places as well then, as he's now battling with R2 Beat then for that 7th place. Then around the outside goes R2 Beat. Can he hold it? I don't think he can just yet then, as we finish off the first lap then. 1.1 seconds the gap between Gordo and Ginner, and blimey, that was a pretty good start then. Yeah, wonderful. As we get ourselves through the first lap then, Sick as Muck and X Gamer are battling away then as we get themselves into the final corner. Then they're going to go side by side through here, and that is not where you want to go, side by side through there. And Sick as Muck has come off worse. Ginger Rage up into the points pair positions, 5 places gained then for the McLaren driver. Brilliant stuff indeed for Ginger Rage. Then hopefully there is no drive-through penalties for Ginger Rage to come, as Vessia gets himself past and up into P11 now as well. Then Cam and Speed Kai then switching places into turn 1 then, and Cam now has the inside then for turn 2 then, which will turn to the outside for turn 3, but he has the position as well then up into P13 then, gaining 4 places in the opening lap as well then. Good stuff indeed then. Speed Kai struggling then with Serious Mushroom now all over the back of him in the McLaren as well then. Serious Mushroom has got up 3 places as well then. Unfortunately for the Red Bull cars, not having a good start in this race then. Cam has got himself past Sick as Muck, I think, has he? Yes, he has, into the hairpin now, up into P12 then for Cam, and trying to get himself into the top 10 then, into the points pair positions of course then for the kick Sauber team. Reflections up 3 places, then Vintage has lost 3. Styles has lost 2, then Styles has completely lost 2, lost another one actually because he's lost the circuit there in Sector 2. Then Kiki's gone back through, then Kiki having a difficult start. Then he was in P7, I think it was, when he started the race. Then unfortunately that I think he was sandwiched in between the Kick Sauber of Troy and the Ferrari of Sicker's Muck into turn 1, then and 3 into 1, which does not go. 2 into 1, to be fair, doesn't go really very much either. But there we go. As we go through the spoon curve, and there is a Haas off the circuit slightly, just slightly, as Ginger Age has gone back through. Then up into P9 now is Ginger Age. He is having a battle with X Gamer, then into the hairpin. Young Lights and Troy then switching places, then into the hairpin as well. Then Young Lights has had a problem then, and he is ghosted, thankfully. And Troy has gone back through, then into P6. Then Ginger Age and Gamer then are still carrying on their battle then as we go out of the hairpin here. And now, oh goodness me, there's contact again then between Gamer and Ginger Age and onto the final corner. Then Ginger Age has gone wide at the final corner as Mumford sets the fastest lap of the race so far. And I think, no, I was going to say I think it's drying out then, but here comes Gamer on the attack, then down the inside, then into turn 1. He's got the position, I think, on the McLaren of Ginger Age then into turn 1 then, and now Vessi is going to try and line up a move as well then. Ginger Age then defending the Alpine into turns 2 and 3. Then he's lost out to the Haas, but he has not lost out then to the top 10 for the time being, that is. But Vessia then is going to be smelling that final point then very soon. Same for Cam. Sicker's Muck then trying to get himself back underway in this race. Same for Speed Kai as well then as we head into the hairpin then on to lap 3 then of 56. Then still a long way to go in this Grand Prix. Then 2 seconds the gap between Gamer and R2 Beats. Then can he bring that gap back down? Then out in front, Gordo has got a 1.3 second gap at the moment as well. Then he is storming off in the distance at this stage. Well, not storming off in the distance just yet, but he is out of a DRS window. Technically, he doesn't have to worry about that because there's no DRS in the wet weather conditions, of course. As into Sector 3 we go then for Jinner, then who's trying to chase down the race leader. Then Equaz waiting in close proximity, and Mumford is trying to get himself back in the podium places after a difficult start as well. Then in the background we've got Sicker's Muck then going for a move on Cam into Sector 2. Then he's lost out to Speed Kai as well. Then Cam then has been unsettled by that overtake by the Ferrari, then trying to lose that back end, or trying to keep that back end under control, I should say, then in the spoon curve. And he has done just about. Then Serious Mushroom now all over the back of the Kick Sauber as well as we head down the back straight once again then on lap 3. Then in the background we've got Ginger Age trying to get a very sneaky slipstream then on Gamer. Then into the hairpin we go, then trying to slow the car down then, and Vessi is in the proximity as well then, trying to go for an undercut then, I think it's Ginger Age then, but he couldn't quite get the move on the Haas into the hairpin corner, into the penultimate corner, then into the final turn then, and Gamer holds on to P9 and goes over on the grass then for a bit as well. So there we go. Good stuff indeed. Swap Stroll for Alonso, says Rick, who I believe is R2 beat them. I think he said that at the end of qualifying. Young Lights and Troy are still battling away. Then Young Lights and Troy has gone for a move then, and that has unsettled the Kick Sauber then, and Troy is still battling away with the Alpine of Young Lights then into Sector 2. And is he going to go for a move down into the hairpin once again? Then no, not quite. He stays behind for the time being. Then is the rain stopping? I think it is actually. So the rain's starting to already abate in this opening first stint or so. Potentially we might be running on a dry track soon, as that is my commentary line from stolen from Jeffrey. Jeffrey, the old, whatever he was, race engineer, wasn't he? So yes, we might be running on a dry track soon. Then I think we'll have to wait and see if anybody decided to opt for a dry setup or a wet setup, really, because we don't know how long it was going to rain for, but it already seems to be getting lesser and lesser then in this opening few laps that we've had so far in this race. Then Gordo then coming down onto the back straight. There is the Aston Martin, followed by the Mercedes, followed by the Williams, followed by the Racing Bull. As we've got a 2-second gap back to Coupe in P5. Then Young Lights is trying to keep up with the second Williams car. Then on the order, Kick Sauber of Troy then is right behind, as is R2 Beat. Then Gamer trying to catch up. Then 3 seconds back then to the top 8 as it stands. Then for Gamer, he's got Ginger Rage breathing down his neck as well here into the hairpin. Here comes Ginger Rage then, late on the brakes then for Ginger Rage. He's got a penalty for his troubles as well then as he cuts the hairpin. Goodness me. Gordo sets the fastest lap of the race then. I think it is starting to dry out here, and so far so good then for all 19 drivers. Then everyone is still in the race at least, and hoping, I think, that it gets to the dry conditions very shortly indeed. Then here comes Vess here then trying to go down the inside of Ginger Rage. Goodness me. Ginger Rage, I don't think will be very happy with that one. He wants to keep that position. Of course, that was the final points pair position then, but he is now dropped down to P11 now as well. Then Vess here up into P12. 10. Then here comes the McLaren. Then he's fighting back. Then is Ginger Rage coming back at him. Then into sector 2. Then Coop has been passed. Has he? No, not quite. Then going to go for the undercut then, or the under move. Goodness me, don't know what I'm talking about. Young Lights has got himself up into P5, that's what I meant to say. Ginger Rage then couldn't get himself back past Vessia, then down to P11 then for the time being, but he's still soldiering on. Then he's got that, he's got a very small gap then to the points pen position as it stands. Then all he needs today then is Ginger Rage to not get a drive through if there's a VSC or a safety car, and that will be an accomplishment in my eyes. Yeah, fantastic stuff indeed. Then the driver's still struggling out there with these conditions then, but I think the rain has stopped now, and Cam fending off Serious Mushroom then into sector 3, and he has done just about then for the Kick Sauber team. Then I think we might see some stops coming very soon if the track is drying out quickly enough. Then as Gordo then is flying then onto the back straight then, or down towards the hairpin then on the end of lap 5. Then good stuff indeed so far for Gordo. He has got a 1.6 second gap. Then Jinner is trying to keep up the pace. Then Equaz now in P3. Where will we see the switches in play then as it starts to dry out on track? Then Jinner is in the pit lane. Then Gordo is also in the pit lane from the race lead. Then Mumford stays out then for another lap. Then Mumford is taking the race lead back then, and of course he was looking like he could be on pole position then in the qualify. A lot of pit activity then. Gordo, Jinner, Equaz, Young Lights, Troye, R2 Beat all in the box. Then Gamer has come in as well. Then Ginger Rage has come in as well, right behind Gamer. Speed Car is into the pits. It's going to be a double stack then for the Haas team, same for New Zealand Cam, or Versio Cam, sorry, as we get ourselves back through. Then Hungry Styles has carried on as well. Intermediate compound tyres. Gordo coming out of the pit lane now. He's on medium compound tyres. We'll have a look at the tyre situation now, because we're going to have to see what is going to be the best tyre to be on. And we've got yellow flags fluttering for somebody, not sure where or why or what. Ginger Rage come out the pit lane, then he is on medium compound tyres, and hard compound tyres and medium compound tyres then for those who have pitted under that at the end of that 5th lap then, so not too long for the rain in this opening stage of this race. Then on to lap 6 we go then, and already 6 drivers then have well, everyone but 6 drivers have opted for the dry compound tyres already then, so they are underway then in this race, and back underway properly in this race I should say, as we get ourselves going through. Then DRS has been enabled, so it is dry enough now for the DRS to be reopened up. Then they've had it in qualifying, they haven't had it for the first opening 5 laps of this Grand Prix, but they've got it now if they're within that 1 second window of the car ahead. Then Ginger Rage is within that 1 second window of Gamer as it stands. Then he has got a 7/10 of a second gap then on the medium compound tyres. Of course Gamer has opted for the hard compound tyres. Where will the pit stoppers or non-pit stoppers fare in this race then? Sick as Muck has got himself past the Alpine of Vessia with the aid of DRS. Then even on the intermediate compound tyres you can use the DRS then, so long as the FIA have granted it. Into the pits then comes the race leader then from lap 6. Then it is Mumford then into the pits. Then Coop follows him in. Sick as Muck, Vessia, Serious Mushroom, and I think Hungry Styles will come in as well to finish off their intermediate stints then, but they might have cost themselves quite a lot of time indeed then going on this dry track then on the intermediate compound tyre. We'll have to wait and see where they will come out then in the order. Gordo retakes the lead, or will retake the lead I think. No, it's very close indeed actually. Mumford then in P2 then. He's come out ahead of Jinner with a fantastic lap then. I thought the intermediate compound tyres would be absolutely terrible there, but they have, well, not so bad then for Mumford. Then Sick as Muck comes out of the pit lane on the hard compound tyres. He's in P9 ahead of Gamer, who is off the circuit there at turn 1 and turn 2. Then he's coming back on now. There's a yellow flag for a Red Bull. Then Vintage has had an issue I think. It's a Racing Bull. Then Kiki's had an issue then at the end of lap 7 then for Kiki. Then unfortunately, well, lap 6 I think, not quite sure what's happened then. Kiki has lost the left end plate there of the front wing then for Kiki, trying to get himself back underway in this race. Then Kiki did a great job of getting a podium in the Japanese Grand Prix last week after being at the back of the grid very early on in the race as well then, and has shown, oh my goodness me, has shown that he has got some great pace indeed in coming back in the Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see if he can do that this time here as well then. But Mumford then, that gap for Gordo was over 2 seconds at one point. It is now underneath 1 second for Mumford, and Mumford has had a fantastic lap then, because Mumford of course stayed out 1 lap extra on the intermediate compound tyres, and we thought that was the wrong strategy then, but it's working out all right then so far for the Racing Bull. Then onto the back straight, then DRS available then for the Racing Bull as well. Then on the back of that Aston Martin, ploughing into the hairpin now and slowing the car down just in time as well. Then Equaz has got himself past Gina, has he? They're side by side into the hairpin. Then Equaz goes very deep, then trying to get himself around the outside of the Mercedes, but not quite. Then 3 seconds the gap then to the top 2 as they soldier on in this Grand Prix as well then. Coop then in P6, then he's right behind Young Lights as well, then might have some DRS to play with. Then R2 Beat is in P8. Then of course there's a different strategy now to unfold. Then it's the hards against the medium compound tyres. There's no more intermediate worries as Gamer and Cam then switching sides, switching places I think, and going all over the place as well at the same time then as we go heading towards turn 1. Then Vessia and Serious Mushroom switching places now. Serious Mushroom into P11, then Ginger Age has got himself past Sick as Muck for P9. And good stuff indeed then. Cam and Gamer still resuming their battle. Then of course Gamer is on the hard compound tyres, so he'll be a bit slower than those on the medium compound tyres at this stage of the race, I would imagine. Vintage has got himself past his teammate Hungry Styles then into turn 1 and 2 as well. Then like I was saying, yes, the hard compound tyres now it's a different battle then compared to those who everybody who started on the intermediate compound tyres at the beginning of the race, because now the hard compound tyres are in their warm-up phase. Then 1 or 2 lap old tyres are going to be very difficult to keep the temperature, then get the grip into those tyres when you come out of the pit lane, especially on a drying track then after it's been very rainy indeed. And of course we can see a few drivers then struggling with, especially with the hard compound tyres, trying to get that warm-up in phased as well then. But so far so good then. Everyone is still going in the right direction on the track, and Ginger Rage is somehow into the top 9, which is fantastic stuff indeed. I'm going to jinx it because I know that there's going to be a commentator's curse then for Ginger Rage very shortly, and he will no doubt get a drive-through penalty then for when a VSC or a safety car comes out. But there we go then. Here we go then. Equaz up into the podium places, now getting himself past Jinner as well, then into P3 then for all the Williams car. Good stuff indeed so far for Equaz. Coop now is on the back of Young Lights then. Young Lights goes wide at the final corner, that might be a warning as well. Then Ginger Rage and Sick as Muck then carrying on their battle into the final corner, and now I think Sick as Muck is going to be lining up a move then for that position as well. Then Ginger Rage has to try and cover him off then, but he can't do with the DRS then for the Ferrari. Up into P9 now for Sick as Muck. Good stuff indeed. And now we've got a McLaren train then right behind the Ferrari. Then there's Serious Mushroom has joined the fight here with Ginger Rage, trying to get them both past the Ferrari then into the top 10 for both McLaren cars. We'll have to wait and see if that is possible then, but I think Ginger Rage has very graciously let Serious Mushroom go through there as we go into the hairpin then of Sector 2 then. Serious Mushroom is now up into the top 10. And Ginger Rage has been very kind indeed to his teammate then. Very good stuff indeed. Maybe some team orders down at McLaren then to maximise their points, of course, as well. Then Gordo has taking a bit of a different line then through the through Sector 2, and Mumford now is back within DRS range then of the Aston Martin. Then onto the back straight, he's going to have that rear wing open then in the Racing Bull to potentially try and challenge for the race lead here as we fly through the spoon curve then onto the back straight. Then very nice camera angle indeed then as here comes the Racing Bull of Mumford. Then he's got the rear wing open, then he's closing, he's got the position, he's got the race lead. And up into P1 now for Mumford. Then good stuff indeed. Then into the hairpin. He takes hold of the race lead. He keeps hold of the race lead as well. Then Young Lights has got himself past Jinner, has he? Into, oh my goodness me, into the hairpin as well. Then he's got the position as well. Coop, oh goodness God. I'm dying here. Cooper's got the position as well then. I thought he had, but he had a bit of an issue then. Sves here has had a problem as well then. He's been passed by both the Haas cars there. Gamer has got himself a bit of a battle on with his teammate and with Ves here as well. It looks like then it's into the final corner we go then. Ves here then ill gear. His Gamer's gone flying off the circuit once again then. I think that's the second time we've seen him do that. Speed car has set the fastest lap of the race, of course, the first race winner of this season in the Haas, then back in Australia, then only 3 rounds ago now. But so far so good. Then Serious Mushroom then has been re-overtaken by Sick as Muck then. So unfortunately not enough then for Mushroom then to keep hold of that P9 position. Then Kiki is off the circuit again then. Unfortunately for Kiki, he is struggling out there at this stage of the race. I'm not quite sure if it's just a setup issue or if it's maybe he set the car up for the wet conditions and it's already dry conditions if you didn't notice. So there we go then. into the spoon curve for Kiki, then trying to get himself back underway in this race. Just needs to keep it composure then and get himself back underway, get some consistent lap times. Indeed, we've seen some fantastic laps indeed from Kiki already this season in the 100% league, and of course in silver, where he got promoted from bronze last season. From P3 in bronze, he has been absolutely brilliant in the first few races then for silver as well. Then good stuff indeed. Then Gordo is back within DRS. Then I think he's just sitting behind the racing ball for the time being. I don't think he's lining up for a move into the hairpin. Then not quite then for Gordo. Then he stays P2. Young Lights is now in contention for a podium place then with Equaz, young Equaz then right in front of him, and Coop and Jinner then are battling away side by side here as well. Then as trying to get themselves some traction out of the final corner, then into the final corner I should say, then out of the hairpin into the final corner then, and Jinner has been passed by Coop then, but now on the attack then, and he's I think he has swiped a bit of wing off there as well. Then he's got himself back past then with some DRS then in towards turn 1. Then the Mercedes back ahead I should say, then into P5 then, back up into P5 as the battles resume then further down the order. Then Serious Mushroom then couldn't get himself back past Sick as Muck. Then Ginger Rage trying to hold on to this pack. Then this is the top 10 pack just ahead of him. Then if he can hold on, he can get himself pulled along there with some DRS. Then Cam has got himself past Speed Kai up into P12 now, and oh dear, what's going on there? It's Farf. No, it's not Farf. It looks like Farf because it's an Alpine. It's the Vessia and Gamer, I think. Then Gamer then battling away, then trying to get himself up into P14, then down the inside, then into the hairpin we go. And he has got the place then, has Gamer. Then good stuff indeed. Fair move indeed as well. Then Mushroom now all over the back of Serious Mushroom, Serious Sick as Muck I should say then, and he is only a few tenths away. Then can he line up a move? Can he get the move done and dusted this time then properly as we go on to the back straight? He's going to have some DRS to play with, I think, and Ginger Rage then is just holding station then in the second McLaren, currently P11 then, but holding on to that DRS window as well, and keeping Cam out of the DRS window as well for the time being. As it stands then onto the back straight then for the race leaders. Then is Gordo going to line up a move then into the hairpin? Not quite, he's too far back. Then his Young Lights close enough into the hairpin. Then on Equaz, not quite as well. Then here comes Coop then on the Mercedes of Jinner then into the hairpin as well. Then R2 Beat is in the fight. Then Troy is in the fight then, and Serious Mushroom has passed Sick as Muck then, but he's gone too deep then into the hairpin, and that's going to be costly indeed. Then he's lost back out to the Ferrari. Jinner and Coop then banging wheels and going off the circuit. Then is Coop then being pushed off the circuit. Then is Coop then, and there goes R2 Beat. Look at that then for the Aston Martin. He takes both of them then into turn 1 and up into P5. Jinner then has lost out to Coop as well then into turns 1 and 2 then, so now Coop is ahead of the Mercedes at least, but he's lost out of place. Well, he stayed in the same place actually then compared to before, as Young Lights has left the session then, so Young Lights is having issues then, and that is unfortunate then for the Alpine driver. Hopefully he can get himself back into the car, back into the race in P4 then for the time being. Of course the AI will take over for the time being now, and I'll wait for him to get himself back in his car. But unfortunate issues then for Young Lights, and he's having a bit of trouble out there in terms of technical difficulties, let's say. Coop then is down in P6, or he stayed in P6 I should say, after getting past Jinner then, but both of them being passed by R2 Beat then. R2 Beat's got himself in range of Young Lights and in for a shout for P4 now, as we can see Equaz then in the distance then going into the final sector as well then. So far so good then for Equaz. He's got a bit of a gap then between of course Young Lights, soon to be R2 Beat then, and of course the top two are split away then by 7 seconds now, and Gordo is almost out of that 1 second window then of the Racing Bull of Mumford then, as we go into the final couple of corners of lap 12 here. Onto the back straight then we've got R2 Beat going past Young Lights. Of course Young Lights not in the car at this stage, and Coop, not Coop, sorry, yes it is Coop then trying to line up a move as well then on the ghosted Alpine then. Mumford sets the fastest lap of the race then, but Gordo has got himself back within DRS range. Then Coop onto the back straight then has got himself into P5, then passes Young Lights, who's not back in the car just yet. Then Jinner is going to go through the Alpine very soon I think as well. Then it's followed by Troy, Sick as Muck almost in that 1 second window as well then of the Kick Sauber ahead of him. Speed Kai sets the fastest lap of the race then, he is flying out there as it stands then into the first couple of turns then. Young Lights has lost out then to Troy as well then, but he is back in the session now, which is good. He might be able to get himself back in the car in the next few corners or so, but he might have lost out to Sick as Muck then by then as well, so we'll have to wait and see. As now into the hairpin we go then. Once again he's not back in the car just yet for Young Lights, so that is problematic indeed. Then Jinner has got himself past Troy, I think, or has Troy got himself past Jinner? Then yes he has. Then Troy again takes the position then down the inside. Oh my goodness me, I thought there was a smash then, and I thought that was front wing then, but it seems to be okay then for the Mercedes driver. Not quite sure what is going on out there, but nonetheless, that is the situation then. But of course, you need to just adhere to the car in front then. Young Lights is back in the car then, but he's lost out to Serious Mushroom then, down into P10 then for the Alpine driver. Then unfortunately for Young Lights, that internet issue then has been costly. Then he's lost out from P4 down to P10 in only a few corners there as well then, which is a shame then. He's got himself back in the car and back underway. Gordo is lost out to the 1 second window then of Mumford as it stands then. Coupe then onto the back of R2B then, trying to fight for P4 then. Both the Williams drivers looking good out here, as is the Aston Martins as well then. Troy and Jenner then battling away. Then there's contact I think there, because there's all sorts of issues. Then there's tyre smoke all over the place as well as we go into lap 14. Troy then holds on to P6 for the time being. Then Jenner is trying to line the move, but Sick as much is now in the fight here as well. Then here comes the Ferrari then on the Mercedes. Can he make a move then into turn 1? Hungry Stolz has got a 3-second penalty. Then Jenner has got himself back round the outside of Sick as much. Has he? Yes, he has, just about. Then there's contact between the two of them again as well now. Serious Mushroom is involved. He's got the inside up for turn 2 and 3. Then here he comes then in the McLaren. Has he got the position though, is the question. And there's a Mercedes there as well. Then Jenner, then they're going to go 3 wide across the brow of the hill, then into the hairpin. And Serious Mushroom up into P7. A brilliant move then from Mushroom. Sick as much down to P8. Then Young Light, has got himself back up into P9 then with all that fracas. And has held himself some good composure as well there. To get himself back in the fight. Then Ginger Rage still P11 then, but can see this battle unfolding in front of him. And if there's any mistakes then from the drivers around him, or ahead of him I should say, then he can pick up some places then, and of course pick up some points then, because he's just outside the top 10 as it stands. Farfy said he's sorry he couldn't make it. That's terrible news indeed. We're frightfully frightened by you not being here, but there we go. You can do the driver of the day poll in the end of the race. Then we've still got about 40 laps to go at the end of that. Troy has been passed by Mushroom. Then the Mushroom is on a charge now. Look at him go then in the McLaren. And here comes Sick as much as well then on the Alpine. Then on the Kick Sauber as we go into the hairpin now as well. Troy holds on to P8. Then Young Lights challenging as well then. But oh goodness me, they're going to be close indeed then through the final corner. Then Troy then has dropped down to P8. Then Mushroom up into P6 there. Brilliant stuff indeed. R2B sets the fastest lap of the race, trying to get himself in contention then with the Williams of Equaz. So far so good then. How long will the medium compound tyres last then? They've done about 10 or 9 laps then for most. 9 or 8 laps then for most, that is. But where will we see the pit stop start to fade in then, or will we see some more rainfall in China then in the next few laps? We'll have to wait and see. Then Sick as much then has got himself past Mushroom for P6 now as we go into lap 15 of 56 then, about a third of the way through. Then here comes Troy, and then he's defending then from Young Lights, who looked to shape for a move there, but I don't think that would have come off very well for both of them then, as we cruise now into sector 2 then, once again then out in front. The gap now over almost 3 seconds, and Gordo's had an issue somewhere because he's lost out a massive amount of time then to the Racing Bull of Mumford. Mushroom then is powering into sector 2 then. Can he line up a move then for P6 then on the Ferrari of Sick as Muck then into sector 3? We'll have to wait and see then. Into sector 3 we go now. Then DRS of course is, oh dear, there's contact I think between Mushroom and maybe Young Lights as well then. I'm not quite sure, but Young Lights has got himself through past Troy somehow as well there. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there between the three of them then, as Mushroom now is trying to line up a move there. He's not worried about that as R2B takes the podium place away from Equaz as it stands. Of course, hard compound tyre is going to be a different factor in this race later on as well. Serious Mushroom then kind of go around the outside of the Ferrari of Sick as Muck, I should say. Then he has got the position. He has got himself up into P6 now as well then, and cruising off into the distance as quickly as possible then for the McLaren driver. Then good stuff indeed. Then Young Lights, Troy and Ginner then are following through then into lap 16 as well. Ginger Rage then still within this fight as well then, is looking pretty good out there as well then for some potential points then if there's more to come then from the strategies. I think there's especially going to be some pit stops very soon for the medium runners. I would imagine so. They've been flying around here at such a fast pace, and that they must be wearing out their tyres pretty quickly indeed. Sick as Muck then is on the hard compound tyres though, so he didn't have to worry about that too much. He has got himself a battle then with Serious Mushroom then and Young Lights and Troy all in this fight then in the lower points paying positions as it stands then, of course. But they're on the hard compound tyres. They can go long in this next stint, and they might be able to find themselves a good few positions or so in this next stint as well, then with the medium runners having to come in earlier than those on the hard. We'll have to wait and see what the strategy's going to be like and how it's going to unfold. Of course, they've done 5 laps at the very beginning then on the intermediate compound tyres, so they didn't have to worry about it too much in terms of tyre life, that is. They haven't done 16 laps then on these tyres. They've only done about 9 or 10 so far. So it's not been as strenuous at this stage of the Grand Prix then, but it might be strenuous for Ginner then, because here comes Ginger Rage then on the attack. Then here comes the McLaren, then he's firing on all cylinders. Literally is the Ginger Rage. Then down the back straight we go then. Can he get a move done on the Mercedes then into the hairpin? Then it's going to be tight indeed. Then here he comes, and he's decided to back out of it, I think there. Going to be very wise then from Ginger Rage. Then Serious Mushroom has been passed by Sick as Muck now as we go almost. Oh, I thought they were going to go side by side through the final corner then, and that could have been very dangerous indeed. Then Serious Mushroom, Sick as Muck then up into P6, then back up into P6, I should say. But now Mushroom is on the charge then. But here comes Young Lights as well. Then down the inside at turn 1. Then can he get the position on the Mushroom? It's close indeed. They're very, very close indeed, actually, on the circuit. Then there's yellow flags somewhere. What's happening for the what's happening out there? Then yellow flags for Kiki, who is slowing down. Then unfortunately for Kiki, then that is costly indeed. Then he's almost going to be lapped by his teammate at this stage of the race, which is going to be a big shame indeed. Then for Kiki, then if that is going to be the case, then unfortunately then for Kiki, then hopefully he can soldier on in this Grand Prix. The race leader is on medium compound tyres, so we'll have to stop before Kiki then, because he's on the hard compound tyres. Is the car in P19, but unfortunately it is not where he wants to be in this race. Then trying to get himself back in this one, back underway. Then Equaz is still within DRS range just about then of R2 beat. Then that's going to help him pull himself along then in this race and potentially keep him in the fight then for the podium places as well. We'll wait and see. There we go then. Young Lights now is next to line up a move then for P6. Then can he get himself back in contention? Of course, was running in P4 then before his disconnection then, so he is trying to get himself back into that realm of points paying positions, I suppose you could say. But he's got to get himself past the Ferrari then of Sick as Muck first, and then both the Williams as well. Then here we go then into the next lap then, lap 18 then for the race leader. Then unfortunately for Kiki, then he is just ahead of his teammate there as well, so he needs to try and get himself out of range then of any blue flags and that sort of thing. But he might have to concede then to his teammate as well. Then Gordo 4 seconds adrift then in P2, then 7 seconds back to his teammate of R2 beat then in the other Aston Martin. And both the Williams then are soldiering along very nicely indeed as well. Coupe, of course, is on the medium compound tyres, and so those tyres might start to drop off soon compared to Sick as Mucks, compared to Young Lights, and compared to Troy's and Ginners as well. Speed cars got themselves past Cam, then into P12, then in turn 2. And now into turn 3 we go then, and the Haas is ahead into turn 2, into turn 3 as well, so I should say. Good stuff indeed. Then Ginger Rage then is trying to get himself past Ginner, then Ginner's now 2 seconds adrift then of the top 9, and this pack starting to spread out a bit. Then Serious Mushroom is all over the back of Young Light still, as we go through sector 2 now as well. Then so far so good then out in front then, and Kiki then is I think he's giving a tow then to his teammate, which we saw in the last race in Japan. Was illegal. So there we go then. But Kiki needs to get out of the way then, otherwise he is going to be in trouble with the stewards, as well as unfortunately not having a good race out here as well then. So that is a shame for Kiki then, if that is the case then. But he is unfortunately going to have to get out of the way then of his teammate, and the blue flags being fluttered around by the marshals. And there we go then. I think Kiki is in the pit lane, and yes he is, and he's called it a day then. Into the box then for Kiki then on those hard compound tyres then. Only 9 laps done then, as he's into the pit lane as well. He speeds into the pit lane and retires in the pits as well then. So that is him done and dusted in this race. First retirement of the Grand Prix on lap 19. So far so good. Fingers crossed, and that is it for the rest of the Grand Prix as well then, as Mumford then is cruising around then in the racing ball. As we've got, no, I thought it was a pit stop action, but it's Kiki then in the box then. Equaz and Sick as Muck has got himself past Coupe now. Coupe is now down to P6 then. Once again this battle resumes then for P5 and P6, and has got himself into P5 now for the Ferrari, then splitting the 2 Williams pair as well then. So far so good for them. But now I think Sick as Muck then is starting to stride on those hard compound tyres then as well. Then we might see Young Lights, Troy and Ginner do the same as well then very soon. We will have to wait and see when is the question though, but they are still battling on out there as well then. at this stage of the Grand Prix. Then so far so good. Then Coop then is in P6 and trying to get himself back into that fight then, but he's now got Young Lights to cut for company as well then in P7, and Mushroom then is waiting in the wings as well then. So far so good then out there as well. Then Troy then is in DRS range as well then. Unfortunately Virginia then he's had an issue somewhere because he's dropped out of the battle with this with the 4 ahead of him, with 5 ahead of him actually, as Gamer picks up a 3-second penalty unfortunately for Gamer. Then that is another penalty added to the tally then for the 4 drivers then who picked up a 3-second penalty so far in this race then, as we go on to the back straight once again. Then here comes Coop then trying to challenge Sick as Smoke then, but here comes Young Lights, here comes Mushroom then challenging each other as well. Then right behind him Ginger Rage has got himself past Ginger this time as well, then up into P10 now for the Ginger Rage, trying to get himself slowed down into the hairpin section. Then Coop has been passed by Young Lights then into the hairpin as well. Then Mushroom trying to get himself through then into P7 I should say as well. But so far so good then in this race then. Lap 20 of 56 then. We're almost at the halfway stage then. We are getting there. No, we're not, nowhere near. We're still 8 laps off. There we go then. That's my maths being very good as well once again then, as Serious Motion trying to challenge the Williams then through turns 1 and 2. Then into the pits comes Vessier. Then Vessier is calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres, which is interesting to see. We'll have to wait and see what he's going to go on to then, but he's down to P18 now, and we will have to wait and see what he's going to go on to next is the question. Then can he get himself onto a new strategy then to get himself back in the points pairing positions? We'll have to find out then. It was medium compound tyres going on that Alpine car, and back underway then for Vessier as well then, so we'll have to he's a bit far off the back of the field now, but it's not very spread out apart from the top 3 really. It's not very spread out then throughout the field, so that it's been a very close race in the first 20 laps or so for P4 down to P17 at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see then who's going to blink twice, then who's going to blink first or second really, because Vessier's blinked first, but we'll have to wait and see. As down the back straight then Equaz then keeping himself within that contention then with the Aston Martin of R2 beat then. Medium compound tyres versus hard compound tyres there. Serious Weapons got himself past Coop then up into P7, now passes the Williams then into the hairpin we go then, and Mushroom now is up into P7 trying to challenge for the next position as well then, with Young Lights in P6 then. Ginner is back past Ginger Rage then into the hairpin then with some DRS for the Mercedes, then back up into P10, then back up into the points pair positions then for Ginner as well then. Good stuff indeed as we cross into the final lap then. Final lap, goodness me, I'm too ahead of myself then. Cross into the 21st lap then, and Ginner and Ginger Rage then, these two battling side by side then into turn 1 and 2, and it's getting close indeed between the McLaren and the Mercedes then. Both of the M's, both of the Gingers, no, Ginner is not Ginger, both of the Gins, I suppose you could say then. So as we go through turns 1, 2 and 3, and still side by side then as we go into sector 2 then into the hairpin, then the heavy braking zone of the hairpin, and Ginger Rage, oh my goodness me, Ginner has gone for a dive bomb then. Speed Kai is now interested in this battle then. I think Ginner has unsettled himself, unsettled the car then with that attempt then, and that has cost him dearly then as well. He's almost out of that 1 second range then of Ginger Rage, who is flying around then into P10 now. And like I said, if there's any VSCs or safety cars, then Ginger Rage just needs to make sure that he doesn't go too fast, as he has got 2 drive-through penalties in the last couple of races for speeding under the VSC slash safety car, that is. But out in front now is Mumford, then 7 seconds the gap then to Gordo. Mumford is really strolling off into the distance here as well at this stage. Then R2 Beat has got himself in the battle now with Equaz for that final podium place then in the background, and Sickles, Muck and Young Lights then are keeping up the fight. Then here comes Mushroom then into the hairpin once again. They're not quite close enough to make a move then, but there is a move then for Ginner, who's got himself up into P10, then back up into P10 between the McLaren and the Mercedes. Now the Haas then of Speed Kai has joined the fight as well then, and it's going to get he's gone ghosted then, so that is on. But he has got himself back underway. Then Ginger Rage picks up another penalty, unfortunately going wide then at the final corner. Then that is going to open the door potentially then for Speed Kai to fly through. Is it? Yes, it is. Then up into P11 now for Speed Kai, of course, the first race winner of this season in Australia. And now can he line up a move down the inside of Ginner as well into turn 2? 2. It's going to turn to the outside of turn 3, but not quite then for the Haas driver. He has to sit behind the Mercedes for the time being. No pun intended, he has to sit behind the Mercedes. But he's not sitting behind the Mercedes for too long, though, as he's going to try and line up a move then down the outside, then into the hairpin as well, then locking up the inside left as we go through the hairpin. Not quite then for Speed Car. Then he loses out to Jenner then for the time being. Then Vessia sets the the fastest lap of the race then so far. Of course, he is in the around the back of the field, having pitted earlier than the rest of the field as well. Then onto a different strategy then for Vessia. We'll see what he can do then later on in this race. Then where will he come back then, and can he get himself back in the points pen positions? We'll find out 20 seconds off the back of the field as it stands then. But it is a long pit stop here. Of course, you sort of fly off then at the final corner then into the pit stop or pit entry, that is, and then you have to go a bit further along, then a bit further left, and then into the box as well. Then Ekpaz has got himself past the R2B, then up into P3 now for Ekpaz. Troy and Coop then switching places as well, then further back, then P8 now for Troy. Coop down to P9, unfortunately for the Williams, and it's not going his way on those medium compound tyres at this stage, and potentially a pit stop coming very soon then, as we've got 16-17 laps live on those medium compound tyres already then so far. Here comes R2B then trying to get himself back up into the podium places then on Ekpaz, but not quite then. Sick as Muck has now joined the fight then for that final podium place as well. Then Young Lights is in the fight too then, and Mushroom is being brought along into this battle. With the 4 ahead of him now starting to bunch up ahead as well. Then Reflections into the pits. No, he's not. He's had an issue. Yes, he is in the pits, sorry. Reflection into the pits. Then he is calling it a day on the medium compound tyres, and that is potentially an indicator then just how long those medium compound tyres can last as well. Then we might see them doing about 20 laps maximum then, and coming into the box. Then we'll have to wait and see how it's going to unfold then in the strategy box on the pit walls, that is, I should say. But Reflection then is going to be passed then by Vessia then, who flies on to lap 23, then up into P17, passes Reflection, who's just come into the pits, and only 3 laps ago then was Vessia's pit stop as well then, so they've done quite a significant less number of laps then compared to everybody else ahead of them. So far so good then. Into sector 3 we go then. R2B is still challenging then that Williams of Ekpaz then into the final sector. He went a bit deep then into that braking zone, and then he lost out a couple of tenths then to the Williams car. Then Sick as Muck now in the contention as well then in the Ferrari. Then can he get a line up a move then into the hairpin as well? Then he's getting closer. There's a McLaren flying off in the background there somewhere, and yeah, I think R2B then just defending the move then from the Ferrari into the hairpin we go then. But I think the Ferrari's going for the move anyway, isn't he? Yes he is then, I think. Oh no, he's backed off then, but I thought he was going for the move, but he wasn't. So there we go then. That's pretty much it. Summed up very nicely in commentary then. Speed Kai and Jinner then side by side into the hairpin as well then. Cam has got himself past Ginger Racing. Cooper's in the box, then Cooper's calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. Then 17 laps for him on those tyres. Speed Kai then is trying to challenge then Jinner then for that final points pen position as it stands in. Where are you going, Speed Kai? You can't do that, as he's weaving all over the place and trying to get himself past Jinner then. I'm not quite sure that is, well, it's not legal. It's not legal to do that when you're defending. I'm pretty sure you can't do it then when you're attacking at the same time then. R2B has been passed then by Sick as Muck, then into P4 goes the Ferrari, then Speed Car's got himself past Jinner, has he? Yes, he has, then up into P9 then for the time being as we go into the hairpin of Sector 2, and Speed Car on the 18 lap hole medium compound tyres is still battling very nicely. He's almost lost control of the car then, as Jinner then I think gave a nice little love tap then on the exit of the hairpin. Then there's more contact there again between the two of them as Speed Kai runs wide then in the long left hand and then into the right hand. There's more contact again from Jinner, and once again these two battling away then, and Speed Kai has gone for a desperate move there, and that has cost him dearly indeed then. Unfortunately Speed Kai got him down to P12 then. Ginger Rage has made a pit stop then for hard compound tyres. Then Jinner has had a problem as well then, as he has lost out to Cam. Then both Cam and Troy are now in the points paying position then for the kick Sauber team then. Speed Kai and Jinner are carrying on their battle though, and Jinner has gone off the circuit there. Where has he gone? There he is. He's behind the Speed Kai now, and there we go then. Good stuff indeed. Then hopefully they've sorted themselves out, but I'm not quite sure they have, to be honest. But there we go then. There we go down the back straight then into the hairpin once again then, as now Cam lining up a move then for that P9 position. And Gamer is in P9 at the moment then, but he's on the hard compound tyres, so he'll be going a bit longer than Cam in this next stint. Speed Kai carries on as well though, on the medium compound tyres. We've got a Red Bull going very wide there at the exit of the final corner. That was Hungry Styles. Then he's under pressure from his teammate. Then is there any team orders down at Red Bull? Doesn't seem like it so far. Then Jinner can't get himself back past Speed Kai into turn 1 then with the DRS assistance as well. Then good stuff so far. Then Sickers Muck is up into the podium places now. Of course, R2B has lost out. Then Ekpaz has lost out now to the Ferrari as well. Then as they power around sector 2 then in lap 25 then of 56 then. We're almost at halfway distance this time when I say it. It's almost right. Only a few laps to go then before the halfway point. Then Vessia has got himself past Ginger Rage. Ginger Rage is on the hard compound tyres now. So can he get to the end of the race on this tyre? Then we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure. We'll have to, well, I have no idea. I have no clue. We'll have to find out then. So there we go then. Ginger Rage has been passed by Vessia. Now Vessia up into P16 then. 11 seconds off the back of the pack then. To be fair, 11 seconds off Coop then, who was challenging then for the top 5 then, so he's not too far off the points pairing positions. I don't think is Vessia then as it stands then with this strategy. Then we'll have to wait and see how it's going to unfold for the Alpine car. In the background then we've got, oh my goodness me, we've got Young Lights, we've got R2B then, and we've got Serious Mushroom then just aggressively challenging then for their positions then into the final couple of quarters, and nobody coming back in the pit lane. And so there we go then into the box. Oh, we have got Mushroom in the box then. Mushroom is calling it a day then, and potentially very wisely taking himself out of the battle then, because it could have got a bit spicy indeed then. Vintage has got a penalty. Where has Vintage got a penalty then? Into the as Speed Kai's had another issue then, because he's lost out to Jinner Hungry Styles as well then. So Speed Kai's having a problem out there. Hard tyres then for the McLaren of Serious Mushroom then, and back underway then. Where will he come out then in respect to his rivals and his teammate? And he's going to come out ahead of Coop then, so good stuff indeed. Then that stint has worked out very nicely then for Mushroom. He's only 2 seconds then off of the Red Bull car of Vintage. Then of course Vintage yet to stop in this, or yet to stop for another set of dry compound tyres, I should say. Reflection sets the fastest half of the race then. Good stuff indeed then for Reflection. Ginger Rage is holding on to that DRS window of the Alpine of Vessia then. Can he get himself dragged along then with the Alpine's pace on the medium compound tyres? We'll have to wait and see then. Hopefully he can then, and the same for Reflection as well then, who's now got himself trio then trying to bring up the rear of the older as it stands then. But of course there is still plenty of laps to go in this one to wait for it to unfold then. 30 laps or so on the hard compound tyres will be the target then for Mushroom and his teammate Ginger Rage in the McLarens. The same for Coop as well then, of course, in the Williams, who has pit for the hard compound tyres already. Then Mumford stays out then once more. 10 seconds the gap back to Gordo. Then Gordo is struggling out of the hairpin there, it looks like then, but I think he's got himself back underway. Then Gordo is into the box then. He is calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres, and from P2 then on the grid then. Where will he come out then? What will he do next is the question. And he is into the box then. The rest of the field then seem to be carrying on then. His teammate has to carry on, of course, unless he wants to double stack then as well. But Cordo then into the box then onto a set of hard compound tyres. And yes, he is back underway then. Where will he come out? And will he come out ahead of this train then is the question then for Gordo. I don't think he will, which is going to be quite unfortunate then, I think, because this battling pack here as well then is going to be very treacherous indeed. Then Hungry Styles then into the top 10 as carrying on those hard compound tyres. His Styles now very nicely done indeed then for the Red Bull driver, then up into the top 10 now as well then, of course, penalties permitting, that is. But Jinner then is dropping down then to P11 then, but of course he's technically in the top 10 with the penalty situation then, as Vessia and Reflection and Ginger Rage then all swapping places as well. Speed Car coming out the pit lane on hard compound tyres. Same for Vintage in P18. Now I think the hard compound runners who have pitted in the last few laps or so can go to the end of the race then, so we'll have to wait and see how quickly they can get themselves round the circuit then. So Coop, Ginger Rage, Speed Car, Vintage, Serious Mushroom then, and Gordo will all be going to the end of this Grand Prix, I think, then on their hard compound tyres, as there's a Mercedes of Jinner then off the circuit in the background then. I'm not quite sure what's happened then to Jinner. He has got himself back on the grey stuff, which is good stuff indeed. Perfect indeed as well. Then into the pits comes the race leader, or former race leader of Mumford. Then I think he might be able to hold on to the race lead. No, I don't think he will, because Sick as Muck then would take the race lead away from the former race leader, which was the Racing Bulls of Mumford, that is, as Equaz then and Sick as Muck then filter onto the main straight. Then the Young Lights carries on as well. Then R2B also carries on as well. So he is He is really taking those medium compound tyres then to the test. Then Mumford coming out the pit lane now. Where will he come out in respect to Troye? And he is behind Troye then for the time being. Then, of course, there's quite a difference then in tyre life at this stage. Gordon out onto the back of X Game and then into lap 28 as well. Then Cam is in the pit lane. Cam is calling it today then on the medium compound tyres. Then Mushroom up into P11 now. Passes the kick salver who is trundling down into the box then at the end of the pit straight, that is. Hard compound tyres, I would imagine, are going on. Yes, they are then back onto the kick salver, I should say then, dropping down behind Reflection, behind Vessia, behind Ginger Rage then. Speed Kai coming down the pit straight then, but he's going to be ahead of Speed Kai then for the time being, then trying to get those tyres warmed up then is the next phase then for Cam, then trying to get himself back in this one as well. Vintage then sold one in the back of the field, then he's 5 seconds off the pack now. I think he might have had an issue then, but I don't think he was that far back. Then Mumford has got himself past Troy into Sector 3 then, and Mumford of course is on the much fresher hard compound tyres, having pitted just on this lap then. Gordo's got himself past Gamer as well, then up into P7 at the same place then for Gordo. He is currently about, he's still about 9 seconds or so, 9.5 seconds away from the race leader, or net race leader of Mumford as it stands then. So we'll have to wait and see how the strategy is going to unfold and who's going to favour those hard compound tyres as well then, because it could favour the Aston Martin more than the Racing Bull. We'll have to find out then, as Mushroom and Jinner then carrying on their battle once again then. These two then carrying on their battle that they were having way before this, way before the pit stops even as well then. Jinner has got much older tyres than the McLaren, so he's conceded the place, I think, there, knowing that Mushroom is going to get past him then on this straight as well then, probably. So far so good. On to lap 29 then of 56 then. We are over the halfway mark now, which is good. But like I said, I think most drivers then, apart from, bear me 1 second, I need to clear this off. Yeah, anyway, like I was saying, those on the hard compound tyres who have yet to pit then, I think we'll be going to the medium compound tyres then for the last 20 laps or so, and those who have pitted for fresh hards then will be going to the end of the Grand Prix from around here. So that's probably the strategy. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to wait and see. Then Mushroom now into the top 10 then, and chasing down two on the older hard compound tyres like we were just talking about then. He's got Gamer and Styles ahead of him here onto the back straight very shortly. Then there is Jinner in the background then trying to catch up then on those older hard compound tyres as well then. Unfortunately the hard compound tyres not working out very well then, I don't think, for the Mercedes team. Reflection has switched on to the medium compound tyres because of that as well then. Ginger Rage then cruising around there, but he's now been caught then by Vessia and by Cam as well then. So unfortunately for Ginger Rage then, he's going to have some pressure from behind, which the McLaren driver then is not too unfamiliar with. Of course, he loves pressure from behind, doesn't he? Does Ginger Rage, but he is now going to be under pressure from Vessia and from Cam as well then. Reflection then is going down the back straight, then trying to cruise into the hairpin as well. Then out in front, the gap's starting to form then. But R2 then is still soldering on those medium compound tyres. He is going on a great stint then as well. Then into the pits comes Jinner, then calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. And I think that's the end then for the mediums. Then onto a set of hards, that is, onto a set of medium compound tyres potentially then to the end of the Grand Prix for him. But yeah, like I said, R2 then on medium compound tyres is doing about half the race so far. He's done a brilliant job at this stint, trying to keep up the pace then, trying to keep in the DRS window then of the Alpine of Young Lights, and just see Young Lights almost losing the back end there through sector 2. Then can he keep within that, keep within the track there and get him? He's got himself back into the podium places. Then of course not the net podium places just yet, but he's got himself back into a good points haul at least then for Young Lights, as now R2B is still soldiering on out there on those medium compound tyres. He's done a fantastic job indeed, actually. Potentially we've seen this in real life F1 as well then. We might see that there's a graining phase and the tyres feel terrible as Ginger Rage has been passed by Cam and by Vessia as well then through sector 2. Then oh my goodness me, then that is close indeed between the McLaren and the Alpine, but like I was saying, there could be a graining phase but we go through on the medium compound tyres. There's contact then from Young Lights as Mumford has gone for a spin. What's happened there for Mumford then? He's had a problem. My goodness me, then there's contact from Young Lights there, and I don't think he needed to make the contact there. Unfortunately, Young Lights, I think that's inexperience showing then, unfortunately. But into the box then for R2B. Then Troyer is up into P4. Then Mumford has had an issue then, and Mumford is trying to fight back then on Troyer then. So that could be very costly indeed then. Gordo is, where is Gordo then? Gordo is about 5 seconds behind now. He was over about 10 seconds before the pit stop phases. Now Serious Mushroom and Hungry Styles are battling away then into turns 1 and 2. And Mushroom is trying to get himself past that Red Bull then, of course, on much fresher tyres than the Red Bull car at this stage of the race, of course, as well then. Gamer into the box then. And it's medium compound tyres for the Haas car then. Where will he come out then? He's going to be behind his teammate, I think, there. Down to P16 then, but he's not far off the points pen positions, to be fair, for Gamer. So I think with a fresh set of medium compound tyres then to the end of the Grand Prix, then it is going to be a massive fight though. Look at this then, all the Haas of Speed Kai, Ginger Rage, Vessia and New Zealand Cam are all involved in this, and Gamer's just come out of the pit lane right behind them all on the freshest tyres of the lot as well then. As we go into the hairpin then, there's Speed Kai trying to go for a move on Ginger Rage, and Ginger Rage covers the inside, outside I should say, then holds on to the place as well, I think. Just about. But Speed Kai powering around the outside brilliantly then in the Haas. And here comes Gamer as well then on the attack then down the inside of Ginger Rage. And unfortunately both the Haas cars have got themselves past the McLaren then in this phase. Of course they're on much fresher tyres as well then. Or not much fresher tyres, but fresher tyres at least then. As here we go then, Styles has been passed then by Mushroom then. The fresh hard compound tyres compared to the 24 lap old hard compound tyres. They're no contest, I don't think, with some DRS as well then. Gamer's lost out then to Ginger Rage somewhere. He's had a problem then into sector 3 then, has the Haas car, and unfortunately that has been very costly indeed then as we go onto the back straight once again then. Ginger Rage then trying to keep up to the 3 ahead of him now, who are starting to fight as well then. Speed Kai has got himself past Vessia then up into P13 ahead now of the Alpine car on those hard compound tyres then for Speed Kai, then back underway. And of course Vessia is on a different strategy then to the rest of the field. He might have to come into the box then in the next few laps or so then to sort that out. We will have to wait and see. Then Gamer's now trying to get himself back in the fight here, but he's got himself past Ginger Rage now and on to lap 32. Rightio. So there is still, we expect the top 3 then, Troyer, Hungry Styles then to pit then. Potentially the likes of Reflection and Vessia might have to pit again from the medium compound tyres that they chose to go on to a few laps ago. And that I think will be the rest of the stops then, done and dusted. And 2.7 seconds the gap between Equaz and Sicker's Muck then. 4 seconds back to Young Lights. Then Mumford, of course, is recovering, and he is the net race leader at this stage of the race. But of course has had that spin then, I think, into the hairpin then with Young Lights, and with potentially R2B, I think it might have been as well. Then R2B has pitted with the hard compound tyres. He's in P10, and Vessia has got himself past Gamer, I think, there as well. Then into P14 now on the medium compound tyres. Gamer's medium compound tyres maybe still warming up at this phase of the stint as well. Then, but can he get himself back in contention then for the points pair positions? I think he can. We'll have to wait and see then at the end of lap 56, of course. 23 laps remain in this Grand Prix. So far, we would have done the full distance of the 50% race, which is coming up then for gold, silver, and bronze. Then in a few days' time, then Vessia has been passed once again then by Gamer as these two carry on battling down the back straight. Then DRS available then for the Haas car, and he has got the position this time with the DRS. Up into P14 at this time for Gamer, then back underway then, and now trying to get himself further away then from the Alpine as far as he can, as quickly as he can, because of course he's on much fresher medium compound tyres then, and I think those medium compound tyres are trying to get to the end of the race then for Gamer as well. We'll have to wait and see. Mumford has got himself past Young Lights, has he? Oh my goodness me, then onto the grass then for Mumford, then the racing ball almost stepping out then. He's got himself past the Alpine then for the time being, but unfortunately that was a bit recorded at the very end of that, which looked a bit dodgy to say the least. Now R2B then is on the back of Coop then into sector 2 as well. Then these two have pitted then and potentially are going to the end of the Grand Prix as well then. We'll have to wait and see then how it's going to unfold in this Grand Prix, what strategy is going to be the best one to go on to. Of course, the rain did impact the strategy at the start of the race. We had 5 laps of intermediate running, then the first rain affected race of the ALR in F1 24, I believe. As far as I can think back then, we've only had 4 rounds for each division, but my memory is already fading. Troy and Gordo then switching places, then Gordo up into P5, then in the Aston Martin, then crossing ahead of the Kick Sauber, then into the hairpin, then and back up into P5, then back underway, then 5 seconds the gap then to Young Lights now, as Young Lights has been dropped then by Mumford with those much fresher hard compound tyres. Then R2B has got himself past Coop, has he? into the hairpin as well then, and Coop then has to yield then to the Aston Martin for the time being as well. Then he might be able to fight back then down the main straight with some DRS then as we go through the final corner then onto lap 34 of 56 here as well then. So far so good then. 18 drivers remain in this race, and unfortunately for Kiki here decided to call it a day then in the pit lane. Then Vessia and Ginger Rage then are carrying on their fight, and Ginger Rage then has lost out then to the Alpine for the time being. Then Vessia picked up a 3-second penalty then going over the track limits then, as Gamer sets the fastest lap of the race then as well then on to lap 34 for him as well then. Good stuff indeed then. Gamer, now those medium compound tyres starting to fire up here, and he's now onto the back of his teammate as well then, who's on hard compound tyres. Potentially there could be some team orders down at Haas in the near future then, as Ginner and Ginger Rage then are switching places as well then. Unfortunately Ginger Rage then, he is not being favoured then by the strategy so far then. Of course there is still stops to come then, and of course there's still potential for the medium compound tyres to give out in this next stint as well then. So it's not all doom and gloom then for Ginger Rage then. We'll have to see how it is going to unfold then in the rest of this race then. But Ginner now on much fresher medium compound tyres by 10 laps then compared to Vessia in the Alpine then, and now he's swooping down the inside then. It will turn to the outside here, but will he be able to get himself back up and under then? Yellow flags then for Vintage, who's had an issue then in Sector 2 as well, and unfortunately for the Red Bull car then he's got himself back underway though, which is good stuff indeed. Then here comes Ginner then on the attack then into Sector 3 then. Mumford sets the fastest lap of the race then. He's trying to go for an overtake then on Equaz into P2. Yes, he has done. He's up into P2 then and passes the Williams car then back down to P4, P3 I should say then for Equaz. Into the pits comes Troy then he's done 29 laps then on the hard compound tyres. We've got 21 laps to go actually in this race, as Hungry Styles then carries on as well. Then Hungry Styles up into P7 then, looking good so far. Troy then into the box then, calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres. Medium set going on to that kick salver then, and where will he come out then? He's going to be behind Reflection, potentially behind his teammate as well then. We'll have to wait and see where will he come out exactly then. He's going to be behind Cam then, ahead of Gamer then for the time being. Then of course that coming out the pit lane and filtering into turn 1 and turn 2. There's the kick salvers and the two Hasses then, so both of them, both teams lying astern in this race at this stage of the race, that is of course, and trying to get themselves to the checkered flag, which is the main aim. But that's my aim anyway. So they will try. Troy then of course is on the freshest tyres then, and I think Cam is what's happened to Cam then, has he let his teammate through? It's a very odd place to let your teammate through, because now Gamer is putting the pressure on the kick salver as well then into Sector 2 then. Like I said, a bit of a uncharacteristic place to let your teammate through, but he has done nonetheless. And Troy is up into P11 now. He's 3 seconds off the top 10 at the moment, and of course, but he's got the freshest tyres then of the field as it stands as well then at this moment. So he is going to be going great guns indeed on those medium compound tyres to get himself back into the top 10 here as well. Then Gamer then has got himself in contention then for some points paying positions as well. Then more pit stops to follow then, as Equaz then is into the box. Then he's calling it a day then finally on the hard compound tyres out there. 30 laps then on the hard compound tyres, 20 laps remain at the end of this one. So he's going to do a good stint indeed still on the medium compound tyres as well. Then Mushroom up into P5 then, looking strong out there is Mushroom then. Equaz then coming through then. Hungry Styles stays out once again then, so he's still soldiering out there is Mushroom, as Styles, sorry. Into the range then. Where is he coming out then? There's P9 then for Equaz, medium compound tyres for him then. Troy is up into P11 then. Gamer's got himself past Cam then up into P12 now. Gamer's starting to mount a charge here as well then. 5 lap old medium compound tyres. Can they get to the end of the race then? 25 laps on those tyres to the end of the Grand Prix, that would be. We'll have to wait and see then. Can he get himself back in DRS range then of Troy first? Here's the question then. Equaz is coming out in P9 then. He's 2 seconds behind his teammate of Coop then. Coop of course is pitted for the hard compound tyres, and I think going to the end of the race from here we'll have to find out, but I think Equaz might be in a good spot then with those fresh medium compound tyres. 20 laps to burn them out then, to set the pace then for the Williams driver. Then we'll see what he can do then. Ginger Rage picks up a penalty, unfortunately with Ginger Rage. He's having a good time out there. He's gone. It looked like he went wide there out of the hairpin in Sector 2 then, so unfortunately with Ginger Rage then, he's having a few issues out there unfortunately at this stage of the race then. But the good thing, like I was saying for Ginger Rage then, is there's not been a VSC or safety car then so far. I probably jinxed it now, but there's not been a VSC or safety car for him to get a drive-through penalty, which is, like I said at the beginning of the race, a plus point then for Ginger Rage. So there we go then. Into the pits comes Young Lights and Gordo back in the podium places now with that pit stop then for the Alpine driver. And again calling it there on the hard compound tyres, lap 37 of 56. Then Mushroom up into P4 then. He is flying out there. Look at him go then in this stint. He's been quiet and consistent, and that is what you need to be in the 100% races then to get yourself some big points. Then R2 beat Soldiers into P5. Then Hungry Styles is still carrying on those hard compound tyres. Goodness me, he's going for the longest stint of the century. I think same for Sick as Muck then in the race lead by 1.8 seconds now. It's coming down. Then Troy sets the fastest lap of the race. Then he's got himself past Reflection and Young Lights as well. Then Young Lights coming out in P11 now behind the Mercedes and the Kick Sauber as we go into turns 2 and 3. Ginger Rage and Vessia then carry on their fight. Then these two having a great battle then in the back of the field. Young Lights is past Reflection then and up into, no he's not, yes he is then, sorry, Young Lights up into P10, then Reflection dropping down to P11 for the time being on a different strategy then for the Mercedes driver. Then Gamer now into P12. He's on the back of Reflection as well. Then he might be able to get himself through quickly indeed then with the extra grip on those newer tyres compared to Reflection's 14 lap old medium compound tyres as well. Then it's unfortunately, like I said, I'm not quite sure what the strategy is then for the Alpine of Vessia then and for Reflection then, because they've gone opposite to the rest of the field, haven't they? Everybody else has either done mediums then to hards then to the end, probably to the end of the race, or vice versa. Then unfortunately for Reflection, we haven't seen. We've got a yellow flag then for it's a Mercedes. It's Jinner then. Jinner's pointing the wrong way there, so Jinner needs to get himself flipped around then. Cooper's got himself, Equaz has got himself past his teammate of Coop then into P7. Now Equaz using those medium compound tyres to its best advantage as well then. And Gamer's got himself past Reflection as well there into P11 now with 1.8 seconds or so. Oh my goodness me, Hungry Styles then almost doing a Lewis Hamilton into the pit entry there and taking himself out of the race into the wall. But Troy sets the fastest lap of the race. Then he is under pressure now from Young Lights here as Young Lights is challenging in the Alpine. Then into turn 1 he gets the place then on the Kick Sauber then where we've got the pit stop activity. Hungry Styles then into the box then for Hungry Styles. Then he is coming out of the box now, and where will he come out in respect to Ginger Rage? Then he is going to be very close to Ginger Rage on the circuit there. It is medium compound tyres then for Hungry Styles back underway. Then he's ahead of Vessia then, but he's not ahead of Ginger Rage, who has got himself up into P14 as it stands as well. Then Reflection might have to come in very soon for another stop soon as well. Then we're on to lap 38 of 56 then. Jinner has got himself past Vintage. Then both of these drivers unfortunately have been struggling out there at these latter stages of the Grand Prix as well. Then unfortunately Mumford is on the back of Sick as Muck then for the race lead here as we go flying down the back straight. Then DRS available then for the Racing Ball, but he doesn't need to make the overtake just yet. He can think about his time, bide his time I should say. Then yellow flags then for a Alpine I think in the background, and it's Vessia who's had a problem at the exit of the hairpin in sector 2. Into the pits comes Sick as Muck. Then he's calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres then in the Ferrari. He has lost out then to the race lead then to Mumford then and Gordo, who's going to fly through. Serious Mushroom might be on the podium here as well then if he can keep it all together. Then so far so good then for Serious Mushroom. He is flying out there. Very nice stuff indeed then. Medium compound tyres for the Ferrari of Sick as Muck then and back underway then, but he's going to be behind Mushroom then, potentially R2 beat as well. Then we'll have to wait and see where he comes out of the pit lane then. Equaz might be going through as well very shortly, but it's going to be close indeed with the Ferrari on the exit then as we go flying through. Then there's almost contact between the two of them then. Sick as Muck has the inside, but it's going to turn to the outside at turn 3 then, and Equaz now has taken P5 away from the Ferrari for the time being then. But of course the fresher tyres then is with Sick as Muck then, and he has still got plenty of laps then to get himself back in to contention in this race and potentially contention for a podium as well on those medium compound tyres. We will wait and see. Then Vintage picks up a 3-second penalty unfortunately for Vintage at the exit of the final corner. Vessia then had an issue there. He's got himself back underway then. I think he's got some wing damage then. He's lost the left end plate then, has Vessia. Coming back into the box then to finish off the stint. He's had a long stint indeed still on the medium compound tyres. We don't expect the mediums to last about 20 laps or so. He's done 8 or 19 laps on those medium compound tyres regardless, so he's done a good long stint then. 9 seconds the gap then between Mumford and Gordon. Then of course the gap was just over 10 seconds before the pit stops. Then that was 12 laps ago or so, but the gap has started to come down very slightly, very gradually then over the last 10 or so laps in favour of Gordon, that is. Serious Mushroom now up into the top 10 then. He has been been flying on those hard compound tyres in the McLaren. Sick as Mug has got himself past Equaz, then up into P5 now on those fresh medium compound tyres. Good stuff indeed then. Of course, Equaz is going to try and stick with that Ferrari, I think, and pull himself along then in this race, getting himself closer to the podium places as well. Then Troy and Young Lights then are carrying on their battle then in the points, then in the fight for P8 and P9 at the top for the time being. Then X Game has got himself into the top 10 as Young Lights picks up a penalty. That's going to be very costly indeed for Young Lights and could demote him outside the top 10. And at the latter stages of this race, we'll have to find out. Then we'll have to wait and see for lap 56. We're on to lap 40 then. 16 laps remain then at the end of this one. Then we're 2/3 of the way through, I think, something like that, or over 2/3 of the way through. But it's been flying through so far in this race then. Brilliant stuff indeed then, and good stuff, good battling indeed as well then, as we go into the last twilight zone of this Grand Prix, I suppose you could say. Equaz now is trying to keep within the fight then for that P5 position, and if he can hold on to the DRS, then he can get himself brought along nicely indeed then with the tow then from the Ferrari in those fresh medium compact tyres for Sick as Muck. Then they're going to be flying out there at this stage of the race as well then, compared to those especially around him as well then. Coop and Equaz, sorry, not Coop, sorry, Coop has got himself a challenge now, because now Young Lights and Troy have caught up to the Williams driver as we go through into sector 3. Then they're going to have DRS then on the back of that Williams car then, and look how quickly Young Lights is flying through the spoon curve on the medium compound tyres. He is storming through there as well. Then he's going to have an easy overtake, I think, with some DRS then down the back straight on the Williams of Coop, then up into P7 now for Young Lights. Then good stuff indeed. Then here comes Troy as well on the attack thing into the hairpin corner. Then can he get the position? Yes, he can. Then Coop trying to go for a switch back here into out of the exit of the hairpin. Then Troy almost losing the car there, but he's got himself back underway then and back in contention, back past Coop then, and on the back now of Young Lights as well. Then Sick as Much at the fastest lap of the race. Then that'll be an extra point for himself and the Ferrari team. Of course, the fastest lap point can go to anybody who's still in this Grand Prix then. Soft compound tyres on Vess's car is an indication of that. He might be going for that extra point then. It's better to go for an extra point than to quit and just get a license point, I suppose you could say. Cam's had an issue then at the final corner. Then he has had a problem then in the kick Sauber, and he's got himself his front wings intact, but he's had an issue there somewhere. He's got himself a 3-second penalty at the final corner, potentially going wide and spinning the car. We did actually see a kick Sauber have that issue then back in the Chinese Grand Prix in real life, or back in the practice I think it was the Chinese Grand Prix in real life. But he has got himself back underway then. Unfortunately for Cam then, not looking good out there as well. Ginger Rage has got himself past, and Cam's had another problem as well then. So unfortunately for Cam then, Ginger Rage has now got himself passed up into P14, which is terrible news. But there we go. So that is the case. Like I said, Vessia then is carrying on. He's doing a good job then of soldiering on, then potentially can go for that fastest lap point if he can keep the lap together. He needs to keep himself within track limits though. Unfortunately for him, then Sick as Buck has got himself past R2 beat then for P2. More yellow flags then for Cam again, and he is having another nightmare then on this lap then, and spinning the car again on purpose there into the wall. So yes, brilliant. Fantastic. Just go into the pits and retire then if you don't want to race anymore, because seriously it is don't cause safety cars, especially with Ginger Rage. Then Ginger Rage will be livid because he'll get another drive through probably. So there we go. Serious Mushroom was in the pit lane, so Serious Mushroom is calling it a day on the hard compound tyres, and he's opting for another set of hard compound tyres then. So that is slightly strange. Because I think he was very comfortable indeed to the end of the race then, especially compared to others around him as well. He's dropped down to P12 here. He will be able to get himself back into the points pairing positions, I think, as Vessia picks up another penalty then, unfortunately for Vessia, not having a great time out there. He's on the soft compound tyres, potentially going for the fastest lap there as well then. But like I was saying then, Serious Mushroom, not a bit of an odd call that, because yeah, not really sure why he's done that. He's on one of the freshest tyres, or some of the freshest tyres then in the top 10 in terms of the hards, that is. But if for some reason decided to call it a day then, as Cam has called it a day in the pit lane then, so he has decided to pit and quit in this race. He is done and dusted in China then for Cam then, unfortunately. But nevertheless, we have got to soldier on then with the 17 that we've got left then. So yeah, there we are. 42 laps then, and unfortunately 2 retirements in this race then. Both have been pit and quits then so far. which is a bit of a shame, but there we are. But what can you do then? I've got to sit here and commentate for 56 laps then. Why can't you sit there and race for 56 laps is the question. But nevertheless, some people don't want to do it. There we go. But there we go. Equaz now is in the fight then with R2B then for that P4 position, and they've lost out to Sigismund, who's into the podium places now quite comfortably indeed as well by 2 seconds to R2B then. R2B could be looking backwards rather than forwards then, because they've got Equaz now all over his diffuser into turn 2 and 3. And there we go, then we've got Troy then on the back of the Young Lights as well. The Young Lights has got that penalty then. We'll have a look at the penalty situation then in the next few laps then as we get towards the end then, when the driver of the day pole is going to come out from Farf, which will be nice indeed. Then Jinner and Vintage then are battling away then through the hairpin. And Jinner has got himself past, has he? No, he hasn't. Vintage has got himself past, and Jinner now is back on the attack then, and I think he's got some DRS then to play with then, trying to battle back past the Red Bull car then into P15. Yes, he is then. Good stuff indeed. Then Vessia then is ghosting out there, so Vessia then I don't think is in the car, unfortunately. So I'm not quite sure what's happening then for Vessia then. Like I was saying, unfortunately for Vessia as well, then he's not getting out of the way then of the race leader then, which again can be costly indeed then in the penalty situation for him too. So there we go. But nonetheless, then we will have to crack on then. Vessia I don't think is actually in the car, so so unfortunately any fastest lap point for him will not go to the Alpine team. Speed Car is unfortunately for Speed Car, he's had an issue somewhere. He's lost out to Mushroom, then Mushroom has gone through, but Speed Car I think had an issue then into sector 3. Then he was ghosted then. I don't think there was contact between the two of them, but I think that Speed Car has had an issue then trying to get himself into sector 3. Then that's going to be very costly indeed. Then here comes Hungry Styles on the back into P12, looking to fight for P12 very shortly. Troy then is still within DRS range then of Young Lights into turn 1 and 2. Then Young Lights, Equaz can't get himself past R2B. They're losing time then to Sickers Muckman, who's gaining on Gordo, and could be in contention for a P2 here. I don't think it'll be on for a race win potentially. We might see something. We'll never know. But Gordo I think is starting to struggle out there because he's lost a lot of time then to Mumford in this last few laps or so. Then Vintage is back past. Jinner is back past Vintage. Into lap 44. So far so good then. Vintage on the attack now this time, then rolls reverse then from the previous lap then into turn 1, but not quite then for Vintage. Now Gordo's under pressure. He's got himself a red Ferrari behind him, and it is within DRS range here as well then. Is Sick as Muck then on fresh medium compound tyres, then he's going to be looking very strong indeed then. Potentially we might see a pit stop or two then for maybe Mumford or Gordo, because they might decide that they want to try and risk it. This is the time to try and risk it now with only 12 laps to go. Then Sick as Muck then has got himself past the Aston Martin then into P2. Then Gordo trying to go round the outside at the hairpin, I should say. Then Equaz has got himself past R2B. I think finally then for Equaz, then of course he's been building up to that move then in the last few laps as well then. No pit stop action then, but there's an Alpine I think of Vessia. Then Vessia is doesn't look like he's in the car then, does Vessia, unfortunately. So yeah, unfortunately that is the case, as Mushroom and Reflection then switching places then. And in the background then we've got Styles getting around the Haas of Speed Car then as well into the hairpin once again then. And Hungry Styles has got a penalty then, as has Speed Car. Both of them cutting the corner into the hairpin. They're both getting themselves a 3-second penalty for their troubles as well. As into the box comes Speed Car, then he is calling it a day on the hard compound tyres. Yellow flags out there. Then this is for Vessia's car, and I think Vessia, well, he seems to have got himself back in the car then, but unfortunately for Vessia, then he needs to keep on going in this race then if he wants to keep hold of a fastest lap. I'm not sure if he's got the fastest lap, obviously. No, it's Sick as Muck who's got the fastest lap point, but potentially we could see some more fastest lap points tumbling in then with the likes of Speed Kai pitting for a set of soft compound tyres then. We will see what he can do then. Of course, he got the fastest lap, I think it was in the second race of the season then, which was Japan, I believe. I can't tell. I couldn't tell, but there we go then. Australia, Japan and China I think we've had so far, haven't we? I don't know. Bear with me 1 second, I'll have to think about it. But nonetheless, we don't have to worry about it. We'll think about it later on. R2B then is still challenging then for that P4 position then with Equaz, and he's holding on to that DRS then. Young Lights is still under pressure from Troy, then I think he's going to lose out to that place then with the penalty situation then for the Alpine car. Then here comes Gamer on the attack then on Coop. Then Gamer's then trying to go for a move then into P8 for the time being. Yes, he is. He's up into P8 now and takes that position away from Coop then for the time being as well. Then, of course, formerly teammates in last season's Williams car. Coop has stayed in the Williams end, but as Vess here has retired in the pit lane as well then. Yeah. Brilliant. 10 laps to go in this race then, and Coop then trying to fight back then for P8. Yellow flags then is for, I think, for Vessia's ghost car, so I think it is a ghost car. Mushroom doesn't need to go that wide, it's a ghost car. Yeah, unfortunately, that's his cost Mushroom time as well then. Vintage has got himself back past Ginner then into P14 now, of course, with more people retiring in the pit lane and giving up. That is why. Speed Kai then is starting off a soft lap then, and let's see if he a soft lap tyre run that is. Not a soft lap himself, but he's got himself back underway then to try and go for that fastest lap point as well. Once again then, lap 46 then of 56, 10 laps to go here in Shanghai then, and we can get ourselves powered through the last few laps. At least 16 drivers at least hopefully can try and do it, because unfortunately 3 drivers, or 4 drivers technically, can't be bothered. So there we go then. But R2B then is on the fight then still for P4 then. He is carrying on then. He's been a soldier then in the 100% league for years and years. Well, not that many years, it's not been going that long, but he has still been soldiering on out there. Equaz then is trying to get himself into the fight for a podium place then, potentially could reel in Gordo in the last few laps or so here as well, and put the pressure on the Aston Martin pair as well then, as we fly into turns 1 and 2 then, lap 47 and 56 then. We are getting towards the dying embers of the race now as well then. So to be fair, if you're having a bad race, if you're still in it, then you're doing a great job then, compared to 4 other people, or 3 other people who are pit and quit then, and 1 other person who didn't even bother turning up. So brilliant stuff indeed then. But here comes Speed Kai then on the back then of Vintage and Ginner. He's joined this three-way fight now. We're into a 3-way fight now as well then. Here he comes then in the Haas then on the soft compound tyres, trying to get himself past a Red Bull and a Mercedes then, as we fly on to lap 48 then for these 3, and into the main straight then once again. Then here comes Speed Kai then. Can he get himself past the Red Bull? But I don't think the Haas has got enough power then to get himself past the Red Bull, even with DRS then. Of course, Vintage had DRS as well then, on the back of Ginner as well here into turns 2 and 3 then, and the Haas is up into P15 and passes the Red Bull car of Vintage then. Ginger Ray's then soldiering on those hard compound tyres now. Styles then almost into, well, where will he be? Can he get himself into the points pen positions? We'll have to wait and see. Then Speed Car's gone around the outside of Ginner and up into, almost on the curb there as well then. So that is dangerous stuff indeed. And they're going to go side by side through sector 2 then, and there is contact. And my goodness me then, that is, yeah, I'm not quite sure why. Where is Speed Car? Blimey, he is going through there. He doesn't want to stop then, does he? He wants to get on with this final couple of laps then, and up into P14 now. And goodness me, that was very quick indeed then, as we've got more moves going on then. Gordo and Equaz then into turn 1 and 2. Not quite then for Equaz then. He's got the inside, has he? Yes, he has then. Gordo trying to shut the door then on the Williams car then, as we go round in towards turn 4, the final part of sector 1 then. We also had Mushroom, no, it wasn't Mushroom, it was Styles getting past Reflection there as well then, into P11 now, 6 seconds off the top 10. Speed Kai, no, it's not Speed Kai. I'm not sure what's going on there. Young Lights was causing a yellow flag, it looked like. But I'm not quite sure what is going on. Yellow flag has gone away, thankfully. But Vessia has left the session then. Great stuff indeed. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there. But yellow flag was fluttering and then into the beginning of sector 2, into the hairpin then of sector 2. But it has gone away, and thankfully. And that is that then. 3 seconds then for, sorry, 3 seconds then. Speed Car's got himself back past Ginner then, as these 3 carrying on their fight then, it looks like. as we go into Sector 2 once again then. Down the inside goes Jinner then. Speed Car going to have to try... Oh, goodness me. He's got into the back of the Mercedes then as Equaz and Gordo then switching places. Then Gordo has dropped down to P4. Then he is behind the Williams now as Equaz then claims the podium place into... Oh, I thought he was going in the pits. He was going that wide. Then it was Gordo. But no, he wasn't. He was just... I don't know what he was doing. Young Lots has got himself back past Troy. Then, but of course, these two are carrying on their fight, it looks like, for the time being then. And we will see what the situation is. Position gain, please, then, from ALR Esports. I will do that on lap 51 when there is 5 laps left of this Grand Prix. But there is Serious Mushroom then going for the move, then up into P9 now on those fresh hard compound tyres. Still a bit of a mystery why he pitted then for the hard compound tyres again, as Jinner has got himself back past Speed Kai. Vintage has got himself back past Speed Kai. As back into the hairpin we go then, side by side again in these three. And Speed Car going around the outside of the Red Bull. Then I think he's got the position this time. Yes, he has done. Can he get himself past Jinner now this time onto the main straight as well, and potentially try and scamper away on those soft compound tyres? We will have to wait and see then. DRS available then to the Haas as we go flying down towards turn 1 then. I'm trying to go around the outside then for Speed Guy. Trying to keep myself inside the frame rate as well, it looked like then, for the PlayStation. And he has got the move done then, very nicely done indeed then from Speed Car as well then. Brilliant move around the outside then into turns 1 and 2. Very good stuff indeed then, Speed Guy. Gordon then is now under pressure from his teammates, so it's now a teammate battle then for P4. He had this battle then in China last season then for the title fight as well. Then Vessia was his teammate and took away the position, I think. But no such worries just yet in this round, I should say, then, because we're only on round 3. But so far so good then, as Gordo then enters onto lap 50 of 56. Then we have got 7 laps remaining. Then once again these 3 battling away. Then brilliant battle indeed so far. But yeah, I don't know if they are intentionally doing it or if they're just having a bit of fun out there now, and at least just keeping it going and keeping it alive out there on the track then, which is fantastic stuff to see. Then not giving up in this Grand Prix. Gordo, R2 Beat then are in a fight now. Equaz then is in a bit of pressure then, potentially if there's some team orders then with Aston Martin. Gordo, who's on 4 lap older tyres than R2 Beat, then might let his teammate through to see if he can get a crack at the podium then of getting past Equaz. Then he's almost out of DRS range then, is Gordo, which is going to be very costly indeed for both the Aston Martin pair if that is the case. But so far he is soldiering on out there, is Gordo. He's on much older tyres than Equaz, and of course he's on much fresher medium compound tyres. They might be starting to get towards the end of their life now though, but we did see about 20 laps or so, didn't we, on the stint. Then he's going to have to do another 6 laps then at the end of this lap, so that will take it up to 21 then, so that is quick maths indeed. Right then, I think we're about to start off lap 51 then, so there you go, Farf. I will show you the position changes then. Speed Kai, oh my goodness, Speed Kai almost in, where was he going? He was in the gravel then at one point then, and now trying to get himself past Jinner as well around the outside into sector 2 then, carrying on the fight then, these 3 then, and they're getting a bit spicy out there. Serious Mushroom's got himself past Gamer then into P8 now for Mushroom. Those fresh hard compound tyres of course will be much better at the end of this race then compared to the rest of the field, but again still a bit of a strange call I think from Mushroom, but we'll have to hear from the man himself later on in the Discord what the situation was then in the strategy board. RTP can't get himself past his teammate, then Gordo has lost out the DRS then to Equaz then, and this is going to be costly indeed for both of the Aston Martins. Gamer is still within the fight then for some points here in this race, and he has got... I'll switch to position changes first for Farf. 2 places for Mumford, but unfortunately he's reserving. 6 for... sorry, it's not 6. It is 5 for Equaz, 5 for R2 Beat, then 10 for Mushroom as well. Good stuff indeed for Mushroom. Gamer has done a great job actually as well. Then he has soldiered on from the back of the grid then after a difficult first half of the race, back up into this fight here as well. Then Coop then in P10 then has gained 2 places. Then Styles has gained 5 places as well. Then he's on a charge now with Styles, trying to get himself into the range of potentially a point or 2 then in this race. Then Reflection himself places on good stuff and using Reflection and soldiering on out there. Ginger Rage has gained 2 places as well. Fantastic. Equaz, R2 Beat, Gordo and Mushroom are your candidates for driver of the day. There we go then. In terms of the penalties, though, we've got, as Gordo has been passed by his teammate of R2B, now up into P4 goes R2B, switching roles, then they've lost over a second, though, to Equaz, which has been very costly indeed. Then Gordo holding up his teammate, then there was definitely no team orders down at Aston Martin, and Gordo then holding up his teammate then has been very costly indeed then for the team, as they could have potentially got themselves into a DRS fight with Equaz then, and maybe challenge then for a podium place then, but unfortunately they're a bit too far back now at this stage, I think, to be trying to go for that. Then Equaz is looking quite comfortable now, as well. He's got 2.2 second gap then over the Aston Martin pair, and then he's got a 13 second gap to the top three. The Sick as Muck is closing in. Then we need to come back to that battle then, but we will do in just a jiffy. Then Young Lights has got a 3-second penalty. That's going to be making him vulnerable to losing that place to Troy. Gamer's got a 3-second penalty. Then he is going to be safe then in P9 for the time being as well. Then 6 seconds for Styles. Unfortunately, that's going to be costly indeed. He's not going to be able to get himself into the top 10 with that, unfortunately. Reflection 3 seconds as well. Then he's not going to lose or gain. Then Ginger Rage has got 9 seconds of penalties, unfortunately, but he is not in any risk of losing his P13. Then Ginger, then 3 seconds for him, 6 for Vintage, and 3 for Speed Kai. Then as these three carry on their fight then at the back of the field, then they have been soldiering on out there then, but they've been putting on a fantastic show still at the same time. And like I was saying, this battle here, as Sick as Muck now has entered the DRS window of Mumford. Then Mumford, who looked like he was in control out of this in this race, then is now coming under pressure then from the Ferrari. Then the Ferrari of Sick as Muck then has been storming through the field, and look at him go. Then he's now got the DRS window or DRS wing open and flying down the main straight. Lap 53 of 56. Then we've got 3.5 or 3 and a bit laps to go here in this Grand Prix then, and Sick as Muck is going to be challenging for the race lead and the race win here in China, I think. As Hungry Styles has got himself past Coop up into P10. Like I was saying, then unfortunately for Styles, it's the penalties that are going to be costly indeed. Coop doesn't actually have to overtake Styles then to get himself back into the top 10 then at the end of this race then, but we'll have to wait and see then how it's going to unfold in that situation. Then potentially Styles is on fresher tyres and could try and pull away then from the Williams car and maybe get that gap then, but he's only got 3.5 laps or so to do that. As here comes Sick as Muck then, we're going to be keeping an eye on the race lead, I think, for the remainder of this Grand Prix then, because it's going to get close indeed between the Ferrari and the Racing Bull. Not the Red Bull, it's a Racing Bull. So there we are. Turn me light on. I can't see. There we are then. So here comes Sick as Muck then. Sector 3 then is underway then on lap 53 of 56, and 3 laps remain at the end of this one here. And here comes Sick as Muck then challenging. Can he challenge for the race lead? Can he take the race lead on lap 53? He has done with some DRS as well. Then he's powered past Mumford up into P1. Then he takes the race lead on lap 53. The first time he has led the race, of course, on this lap, in this race, I should say, so far then. But can he do it then? Can he keep it to the end of lap 56 then is the question. He doesn't need to lead. You don't need to lead the race then for more than one lap then, really. But if you do it over the checkered flag or over the start finish line, then that is what counts, doesn't it? Speed Guy, Jenner and Vintage then carrying on their battle here. Brilliant stuff indeed to see, but hopefully they can make it to the end of the race as well then, all intact, that is. But they might be looking to line up a move for a pit stop very soon as well for a soft compound tyre and going for a fastest lap point. Gordo's got himself back past his teammate into turn 1. Now Young Lights has joined the party here. Troy has had an issue somewhere because he's dropped off. Then potentially he's got to save some fuel. Then we'll have to wait and see. But it could be costly. Then of course Young Lights has a 3-second penalty. So if Troy can stay within that 3-second penalty, then he can of course try and get that position back from Young Lights then. But he's now within the DRS range then of the Aston Martins, and goodness me, R2B then made a late move then to defend then, and Young Lights then is trying to get himself through then on the Aston Martin of R2B. Then he's got himself all over the back of Gordo as well then into sector 2. They're going to be going side by side, and R2B has got the inside for the next right-hander. Then Will Young Lights trying to switch back then as he goes deep then into the around the outside of the left-hander. Then there's contact, and R2B has lost out then. Goodness me. Out in front then, Sick as Muck then is trying to get himself a 1-second gap then straight away then. He's still within DRS range then for Mumford as Speed, Keychains and Vintage battle on then. These three are absolutely phenomenal and brilliant stuff indeed. Fantastic stuff indeed from the three of them then to put on a show at least then. As now we've got a bit more of a show then up the in the points order. Then Young Lights has got himself past R2B. He's got past one Aston Martin. Can he get past another one? Troy has got himself back within DRS range then of of the Aston Martin and Young Lights affair. So that is going to help pull himself along then and keep him within that 3-second range then of Young Lights' penalty as well. Then lap 55 has commenced here, and the gap is over 1 second. Then, well, it was over 1 second then briefly, as Young Lights has got himself past Gordo, now up into P4, then back up into P4, of course, where he was before he disconnected in this race. But he has now got himself back into P4, but with a penalty this time, he could, unfortunately that penalty I think at the moment will demote him back down to P7, then behind both the Aston Martins and behind Troy, which will be a bit shaming indeed then, but unfortunately that is a technical fault indeed, which we can't do anything about then, as Young Lights slowing down then, and Gordo's back through then, Gordo's back through into P4, and down the inside into the hairpin, then he's back past the Alpine as well then. Flying out there is Gordo then into sector 2, trying to hold the place then down. He's got the inside, then there's contact between the Alpine once again then and the Aston Martin as we go through into the middle of sector 2 then. Out in front, the gap just over 1 second, and I don't think that there's going to be DRS then for Mumford as we fly down the back straight then. Yes, there is actually, just about then, so good stuff indeed for Mumford. He's holding on then. If anything goes awry then for Sick as Muck then in the last lap or so, but we're on to lap 55 then, the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix here, and we're almost on the final lap actually, so we're nearly there. But here comes this battle then once again then. Young Lights all over the back then of Gordo as we fly down the back straight then. Gordo going all the way over to the right hand side of the circuit to try and defend then, but he's lost out then. DRS then for the Alpine is enough to get him through then, as Gordo's gone deep on the brakes, and blimey, Gordo is sending it then on Young Lights then, and goodness me then, I don't know if Young Lights was going to be too happy with that then, as there's more contact between the two of them again then onto the start finish straight then to start off the final lap then. Goodness me. R2B's got himself past his teammate then up into P5, net P4, because of course penalties then for Young Lights then will move him back down the order. And goodness me, Gordo is he's turning from the quiet and consistent racer to the aggressor then, because he's going for moves all over the place then, almost trying to send a move then down into turn 3 on his teammate there, which could have been very costly for both the Aston Martin drivers then. There we are then, but we'll have to come back to the battle then later on towards the end of this lap then, because we need to go to this driver here then at the top of the field then. He's led the race then for only 3.5 laps then, as we cross into none of Vintage Junior or Speak pit for soft compound tyres to go for fastest lap then. Interesting stuff indeed, but nonetheless that is that then. But Sick as Muck then coming down towards the final penultimate corner I should say then of this Grand Prix then. He has done a fantastic job then, a fantastic stint indeed, and that Ferrari then has been pretty phenomenal then in this Chinese Grand Prix. He comes round the final corner then to almost losing the car though, to win the Chinese Grand Prix, and brilliant race indeed then for Ferrari then. Sick as Muck then is your race winner for the Chinese Grand Prix round 3 of the 100% League, and Sick as Muck then is crowned the winner. Mumford then P2 then in the racing board, 29 laps on the hard compound tyres then. A great race indeed, looked comfortable indeed then, but Sick as Muck then stole it away then. Mumford P2 in the end, then Equaz rounds off the top 3 then. A brilliant race indeed then for Equaz as we've crossed the line then. R2 beat P4, Gordo P5, Troy P6, then Young Lights with the penalty down to P7, then Mushroom P8 in the end, then Gamer's going to hold on I think to P9 then with Styles' penalties as well then, but Styles I think could get a penalty here as well then, could get some points here as well then I should say. I think he's out of range then from Coop then. It's yes he is then. Coop finishes P11 there as we cross into the dying embers then. The last few drivers in a Speed, Kai and Jill then carrying on their fight still. Ginger Agent is going to cross the line then in P13. Reflection P12 then, as there we go then. Vintage P14 then. Jinner and Speed Kai are going to be battling then to the checkered flag I think here as well. Once again then these two, I think they've been putting on a pretty good show then for the last sort of 15-20 laps or so. As here we go then across the line then. It's going to be very close indeed then, but that is that then for the Chinese Grand Prix. Your race winner here then is Sick as Muck, and his first race win in ALR as well then. I think that's absolutely fantastic stuff indeed, and what a race win indeed then. Equaz then, your candidate for driver of the day then is your vote winner as well then. Brilliant stuff for Equaz then. But fantastic stuff indeed then. And what a race indeed then that was. There is Sick as Muck then on the top step of the podium. Then he is celebrating in style then for Ferrari. Then he claims the victory here in Shanghai. Then we have got, of course, Mumford in the Racing Bulls then in P2. Then a great reserve appearance indeed from Mumford. Equaz is P3 then in this race for the Williams team. And what a race. Again, a very consistent and clean race from Equaz as expected. Brilliant stuff indeed. Then there is your podium celebrations as well. Then a fantastic end to the Chinese Grand Prix. Then 56 laps then have been completed around here as well. Then brilliant stuff from all the drivers who finished the race. And there is your classification as well. Then Sick as Muck also got the fastest lap of the race as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed from him. Mumford P2, then Equaz P3, rounding off the podium places. Then R2 Beat and Gordo. Then the Aston Martin pair P4 and P5. Troy P6. Young Lights with that penalty then demoted from P4 down to P7 in the end. Then Sirius Mushroom P8. Then Gamer rounds off. Gamer P9. Then Hungry Stars rounds off the top 10. Then in the Red Bull. Coop just outside in P11. Then Reflection P12. Ginger Rage P13. Jinner in P14. Speak High P15. Vintage P16. Vessia P17, Cam P18, and Kiki P19. Unfortunately, they all pit and quit, so they do not get classified in this race. Brilliant stuff indeed, then. Fantastic from all the drivers then who got to the end of this one. But we will get ourselves a podium interview, I think, then with some of the drivers then that we've got on the field. Then bear me 1 second whilst I get me camera sorted out. I should find it here. Why is this not showing up? There we go. Fantastic stuff indeed. Then I think we've got a couple of people join the party. Then potentially, hopefully, we've got Equaz, who finished P3 in that race. Then, but like I was saying, once again, you had a fantastically clean, consistent race as we've been familiar with from yourself in previous 100% leagues and divisions as well. So, what was your race like from your point of view?
Oh, hey, yeah, fun race, everyone. Top two guys were so fast. There was literally no catching them. But getting through the pack was really fun at the start. I really enjoy the start of every race. And I just benefited from a couple of people making some mistakes. And yeah, I enjoyed that.
Like you said, kept it clean as well. Then that race start was on the first wet race we've had in ALR this game so far. So interesting stuff indeed. Then what did you think about the racing in the wet?
Yeah, wets was really fun. Definitely mixes things up. Surprised that it weren't Farf that give it to us, because he's usually the one that gives us rain. But yeah, nice little mix up.
I did mention it was a curse that had. I don't know what happened to the curse, but it came back then, unfortunately, for Jenna this time. But nonetheless, hopefully Farf is back next week, so we have some dry racing, but we'll see. But well done indeed then to Equaz then claiming a podium place then for Williams then here in China. Then brilliant stuff indeed. Then we will hopefully see you back then next week. Good stuff indeed. I think we're in
well done, Equaz.
Next week. So yeah, we'll see. But brilliant stuff indeed. Well done, Equaz then. Thank you very much for joining us as well then. Mumford P2 Cheers. Then in the end, then you had a fantastic race, it looked like, and you were out in control in the race then, especially for the first 50 laps or so pretty much. Then did you think you had the race win in the bag?
Yeah, I thought I had it from probably like lap 15 if I'm honest, but yeah, as soon as Sick as Muck pit and that gap was coming down by a second and a half every single lap for the next 20 laps. So I thought when it came to like 7-8 laps left, it was going to be close to impossible, if I'm honest, to get the win.
And you still did a brilliant job. Then you had a very comfortable lead. Then in both the stints after the rain. Then were you more comfortable in the dry? It looked like you were more comfortable in the dry than compared to the wet. Then, but what did you think about the 5 laps of wet racing that we had today?
I think I was solid in the dry, but I think I was best in those crossover conditions. I was gapping Gordo by like close to a second a lap for those like 5 or 6 laps, which just sort of build the lead for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and we saw what you did an extra lap then on the intermediate compound tyres, and we thought you were going to lose out quite significantly then to those that pitted the lap before then, but you didn't, and that really set you up nicely for the dry stint and the first dry stint as well. So brilliant stuff indeed. Then well done on your first 100% appearance as well. Then congratulations on the podium then in your first 100% race. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us as well. Then hopefully
well done, Mumford.
I think we got somebody just said something, but I didn't know who it was. Then
It was
Sickers
me.
Muck has joined us as well.
Yeah.
Then so he is I think well, your first race win in ALR.
My
then
first
with,
race win. It's all
yeah,
I
what
was
did you
thinking
think
about.
that?
It's all I was thinking about. But when turn one, like I've earned my win today because I was the biggest loser in turn one. I feel. But yeah, I don't know what happened in turn one. But yeah, I think staying out on the intermediate for a couple of laps longer helped. Maybe jump the people that had already pitted. And then that long stint on the hards. Oh god, that was something. I sound sedate, but I'm really happy that I won my first race. I really am.
That was brilliant stuff indeed.
Especially here.
And like you said, I think turn one, it was from memory anyway. I can't remember it that well.
It was
It
terrible.
was a long time ago, but it
It was
seemed like
terrible.
there was an Alpine in between yourself and Kick Sauber, then it was sort of
It
sandwiched
felt like the
between
whole
both.
grid was pushing me off the track.
Yeah, well, it looked a bit messy to be fair, but there we go. But yeah, it doesn't matter in the end because you got yourself a race win in the end as well. And like you said, on the hard compound tyres, you were soldiering on up there on the hards for quite a long time, and then chose at the right time. It looked like to pit for the medium compound tyres, and we saw you breeze past the likes of the Aston Martins. We saw Equaz then. We saw Mumford, of course, as well then. And we were expecting. Were you expecting to get a race win, or were you expecting a podium, or what was your thoughts on when you got the medium compound tyres?
I wasn't sure because I practiced with Gina earlier. I had relatively good pace on both. It's just the soft I couldn't find pace, although I qualified first somehow. Don't ask, I don't know. But yeah, once I pitted on the mid, I was quite confident I would catch at least Gordo. But then when I seen I was catching up to 2 seconds a lap on Montfort, I was like, oof, I could win this. I could win this. I could win this. That's all I was thinking about. Is like, don't fuck it up. Just take it all nice and easy. Yeah, just catch him. Just catch him. Just catch him.
Well, you got
And then I backed off.
The first race win of your ALR career, then, and many more
Woohoo!
to come. Then, it looks like, especially with that Ferrari. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say as well. Like, considering Mumford is driving, Mumford? Yeah, isn't Mumford's driving Alpine? He had great pace. To be fair to him, in all fairness to him. But
which one was he? I can't remember if he was in the Racing Ball or the Alpine, but yeah, one of them. I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure, but yeah, I can't remember to be fair. But no, a fantastic race win from Sickers Muck. Then your race winner for the Chinese Grand Prix of round
Woo!
3 of the 100% League. Then in Ferrari, then he claims the victory here in Shanghai. Then, and that'll be it. Then for the 100% League, we're done and dusted tonight. Then we'll be back in a week's time. Then for Miami, in the Sunshine State, that is. Wonderful stuff indeed. But of course, we've got the Chinese Grand Prix coming up for you in gold on Sunday night, then Monday in silver, and Tuesday in bronze as well. Then, so stay tuned for that. Then, plenty more action coming up then on ALR, and we'll see you very soon.